Chapter 401, Saber Sword Shura. People felt speechless. Back when Ian first displayed his Desolate Heaven technique in the Lin family, he had used the Mystic Crystal Hand. Later on, Ian disappeared for 2 months for reclusive training. After coming out of reclusion, his first challenge in the Desolate Heaven Technique T session was to go against Song Ziyue's specially designed 5-elemental bone array. And he had used the Mystic Crystal Hand once again to crack the array. Now, it was the third time. He got to exchange moves with Shintu Nantian. In the domain of the ancient Desolate Heaven technique, just a tiny mistake would cause a spiritual backlash, so his life on the line. If this were any disciple of the Lin family, they would never dare to accept this challenge, but, after Yi Yun had accepted the challenge, he still used the Mystic Crystal Hand. At this point of time, you shouldn't be hiding any skills you have. Many of the juniors of the Lin family who were about the same age as Yi Yun were worried. Ah, junior brother Yun, you sure are confident. Shintu Nantian really found it amusing. This Yun Yantian was still using the Mystic Crystal Hand at this point in time. Was he trying to forcefully pretend to show how powerful he was? Did he think that the Desolate Heaven technique was like cooking, where one trick could be used to feed the world? However, Shintu Nantian did want to see Yi Yun use such a technique that would be the death of him. On the other hand, many members of the upper echelons of the Lin family were breaking out in sweat for Yi Yun. Elder Su, what is the matter with your disciple? At this time, shouldn't he use his best skills? Even though Yi Yun did not know Dark Desolate Heaven master techniques like Black-Handed Demon, he should have been able to use some more powerful sealing techniques to withstand the spiritual backlash. Su Jia sweated. He reluctantly said, everyone might have misunderstood. It is not that this disciple of mine does not want to use any other techniques, but at this point, it seems that he only knows the Mystic Crystal Hand. He also knows Small Thousand Seal, but that is to form the bone relic. When Su Jia said this, the members of the upper echelons of the Lin family looked at each other. He only knows the Mystic Crystal Hand. They had heard of incidences in ancient times where there were some Desolate Heaven masters who wandered the world, specially researching on a few sealing techniques, and pushing these few sealing techniques to perfection. However, even those Desolate Heaven masters would not have chosen a sealing technique like the Mystic Crystal Hand that had no future. And at this moment, Shintu Feng, who was opposite Yi Yun, had conjured his aspect totem while refining the Cho labeled Desolate Bone. It was another sealing technique that required the conjuring of an aspect totem. This technique greatly consumed the performer's mental energy and yuan qi, but of course, it was very powerful. Shintu Feng's sealing technique was also very special. He stretched his palm in one hand like a saber, while his other hand used his fingers like a sword. When he formed the seals, not only was there gorgeous light emitting from it, but there was even the roar of saber beams and sword qi. People could faintly see the saber beams and sword shadows appear in midair. This wasn't anything like refining a bone using the Desolate Heaven technique, it was a brutal fight. Oh! On the Lin family's side, the eyes of many elders flashed seeing this scene. Could this be? The Lin family's matriarch took a deep breath. If I am not mistaken, what Shintu Feng is using is an ancient sealing technique known as the Saber Sword Shura. Saber Sword Shura. Indeed. This sealing technique's heritage is already incomplete as it got passed down today. A long time ago, in the great battle between Orthodox Desolate Heaven Masters and Dark Desolate Heaven Masters, the Saber Sword Shura was buried along with the destruction of several sects. Ignoring anything else, just the name of it could make one feel the power of this sealing technique. Saber Sword Shura was both orthodox and heretic. It was very powerful. Some people claimed that the Saber Sword Shura technique could not only refine bones, but it could also be used in battle to kill. Using the Saber Sword Shura sealing technique was a battle in itself. As such, Shintu Feng, who had entered a combative state, could withstand the Cho labeled Desolate Bone's spiritual backlash easily. However, the Saber Sword Shura was extremely difficult to cultivate. After all, many Desolate Heaven masters were not proficient in combat, so it was very difficult to learn the saber sword Shura. Besides, the main heritage of this sealing technique had been lost. As such, even though the saber sword Shura's technique was extremely powerful, very few Desolate Heaven masters could use this technique nowadays, as the high-level heritage was lost and also because it was difficult to learn. However, now people could see Shin Tu Feng use the saber sword Shura, and it did not seem to be as simple as the incomplete heritage. The Shin Tu family clan not only found the Heaven Desolate Ancient Sect's Desolate Heaven technique heritage in the mystic realm, they also found the long-lost saber sword Shura. The upper echelons of the Lin family were envious and depressed. Such a great opportunity had been gained by the Shin Tu family clan. If they had found it, the Lin family's Desolate Heaven technique heritage would raise by at least an entire level. And they could even join Lin Shintong's naturally terminated meridians up themselves. If so, then things would not be so troublesome. The Shin Tu family clan really came well prepared. For the saber sword Shura to appear in the hands of a junior, it must be an extremely tiny portion. If the Shin Tu family clan really has the complete heritage of the saber sword Shura, then they would definitely be showcasing the rest later. Now is just the appetizer. People understood that for a top-level Desolate Heaven technique like the saber sword Shura, juniors like Shin Tu Hai and Shin Tu Feng had just learned a tiny bit of it. As Shin Tu Nantian had said, they had prepared all sorts of things to shock the Lin family in this Desolate Heaven technique tea session. They would prove that they had the ability to heal Lin Shintong's naturally terminated meridians. Although Yi Yun's appearance had upset the Shin Tu family clan's plan slightly, Yi Yun, as an uncertain factor, was nothing compared to the ancient heritage the Shin Tu family clan had obtained in the mystic realm. After all, Yi Yun was too young. And at this moment, Shin Tu Nantian smiled at the Lin family's elders' odd expressions from the center of the square. There was a tinge of teasing in his smile. He had wanted this effect. He would let the Lin family understand the heritage and capital the Shin Tu family clan had. He would make the Lin family covet the heritage the Shin Tu family clan had obtained. Compounded with Lin Shintong's naturally terminated meridians, they had no choice but to cooperate with the Shin Tu family clan. Shin Tu Nantian was the one who wanted this to happen the most. As by being together with Lin Shintong, and having cultivation intercourse with a purine-bodied girl who would become a peerless great empress, it would give him great benefits. Shin Tu Nantian had already planned how he would make his plans happen, beginning with the Desolate Heaven technique tea session. By showcasing the ancient heritage of the Heaven Desolate Ancient Sect, he would broaden the horizons of the Lin family. This was the beginning of his plans. However, due to the unexpected bug that was Yi Yun, his plans had been pushed forward. However, it did not influence him being able to showcase the Heaven Desolate Ancient Sect's heritage. Trampling on Yi Yun was just a matter of convenience for Shin Tu Nantian. He, Shin Tu Nantian, would definitely become the person to control the Tian Yuan world in the future. Thinking of these, Shin Tu Nantian was extremely pleased. He looked at Shin Tu Feng. Shin Tu Feng had not disappointed him. His saber sword Shura technique may have only reached half of the first level, but it was enough to handle and extract the Cho labeled Desolate Bone. Now, Shin Tu Feng had already completed extracting half of the Cho labeled Desolate Bone's energy in a prescribed order. Also, he had used the saber and sword at the same time, nipping the spiritual backlash in the interior of the Desolate Bone. Such a method was even superior than what Shin Tu Hai had previously showcased. Shin Tu Nantian had already planned how he would present things that would make the Lin family red-eyed. And if they wanted this, they had to pay the price. Seniors of the Lin family, you must have noticed that what Shin Tu Feng is showcasing is the long-lost saber sword Shura. Of course, Shin Tu Feng is limited in his abilities. He can only show a tiny portion of it. To tell the truth, my Shin Tu family clan has already obtained a nearly complete saber sword Shura heritage. Now, the elders in my family are researching it. However, as the saber sword Shura's heritage is too arcane, the research is still in its initial stages. Shintu Nantian purposely threw out the bait as many of the Lin family elders felt the temptation in their hearts. They were naturally interested in this ancient heritage. Even Su Jie was not immune to it. And beside Shintu Nantian, Lin Xintong frowned slightly. Shintu Nantian was too cunning. She could feel that Shintu Nantian was slowly gaining control of the situation. Through this Desolate Heaven Technique tea session, it was certain that more and more Lin family elders would lean towards Shintu Nantian. The saber sword Shura is extremely heavy in its killing aura. This demonstration of the Heaven Desolate Ancient Sect's Desolate Heaven Technique requires many of these sealing techniques in various aspects. Without them, using existing Desolate Heaven Technique heritages would just appear lacking. At this moment, the Desolate Heaven Technique demonstration still did not need Shintu Nantian's involvement, so we could casually introduce these ancient Desolate Heaven Technique methods. This time, my Shintu family clan has not only obtained the saber sword Shura in the mystic realm. Including the joining up of Miss Lin's terminated meridians, it is inseparable from the ancient Desolate Heaven Technique methods. Some of the methods are indeed stunning. Just as Shintu Nantian was fervently narrating, he suddenly heard a pang explosion. This explosive sound appeared very suddenly, but it made Shintu Nantian feel a sense of familiarity. As he felt a jump in his heart, the sound stopped. He inexplicably had an uneasy premonition. What happened? He slowly turned his head and looked towards the explosive sound. When he saw the situation, Shintu Nantian seemed to petrify. His mind went blank. He saw that behind him, where Yun was standing, the Yin-labeled desolate bone in Yun's hands had completely cracked apart. It was grayish-white in color. There was a blob of pure energy in Yun's hands. It was the power of desolates from the Yin-labeled desolate bone. Yun had already extracted the power of desolates from the Yin-labeled desolate bone. What? Shintu Nantian stared widely as his mouth was slightly agape. It was like he had Alzheimer's as he could not believe the sight in front of his eyes. What had happened? What happened to the spiritual backlash inside the Yin-labeled desolate bone? Why didn't Yun get affected by the spiritual backlash surge? Chapter 402, Yun's Thoughts. Shintu Nantian's first thought was that the Yin-labeled desolate bone's spiritual backlash had lost its effectiveness. Be it Shintu Feng or Shintu Hai, it would seem to be in a life-and-death struggle while handling the spiritual backlash from the desolate bones. Only by using powerful sealing techniques could they resolve the danger through great difficulty. And now, Yun, who was 15 years old, had used the run-of-the-mill mystic crystal hand. Why didn't he suffer the spiritual backlash without a sound? Also, his speed at extracting the energy was faster than Shintu Feng? As these thoughts lingered in Shintu Nantian's mind, he watched helplessly as an ashen-gray colored gas flowed out of the cracked Yin-labeled desolate bone in Yun's hands. This gray gas was cold and silent. It was the spiritual backlash force that was produced as a result of the ancient processing methods used on the Yin-labeled desolate bone. Yun looked calm as he used the mystic crystal hand seals to suppress the ashen-gray gas completely. After that, he casually took a jade box out of his interspatial ring and he nonchalantly sealed the ashen-gray gas inside. Seeing this scene, Shintu Nantian was so dumbfounded that he stood as still as a statue. Not only Shintu Nantian, even the members of the upper echelon of the Lin family had the same reaction. When Shintu Feng suddenly displayed the saber sword Shura, it had attracted everyone's attention. While they were briefly focused on Shintu Feng, who knew that in a short moment, Yun had already completed the energy extraction of the Yin-labeled desolate bone? Yun, he. Lin Xintong had been focused on Yun all this time. In fact, when Desolate Heaven Masters refine desolate bones, laypersons would not be able to figure out much. And Lin Xintong was still young, so she did not have the ability to see through the essence of items, hence, she too did not know what had happened. It's quite odd. How did this junior do it? Many of the Lin family's elders were both excited and incredulous. They knew the difficulty of extracting the power of desolates from the Yin-labeled desolate bone. However, Yun had done something incredulous before by cracking Song Ziyua's 5-elemental bone array with the mystic crystal hand. And now, Yun had once again completed a seemingly impossible task. Although they were shocked, they barely accepted it. If the Lin family had another Desolate Heaven technique genius, it would obviously be beneficial for the Lin family. Especially for the Lin family's matriarch, she stared at Yun without blinking as her eyes sparkled. She increasingly liked this junior. If he could accompany Lin Xintong and mature together with her, then he would be a great help to Lin Xintong. He would not only be very beneficial for Lin Xintong in the future, but he could also provide the various refinements needed after her naturally terminated meridians were joined. However, the Lin family's matriarch could also see that Shintu Nantian had grudge with Yun like how oil and water did not mix. This was a problem that gave her a headache. If Shintu Nantian was chosen, they could heal Lin Xintong's naturally terminated meridians with the power of the Shintu family clan. After which Shintu Nantian would probably not allow Yun to exist. At this moment, Yun flipped his palm as the energy blob merged with the huge disc array beneath his feet. As the disc array's corresponding Yin label lit up, the Cho-labeled Desolate Bone in Shintu Feng's hands suddenly trembled. 3 runic explosions occurred successively. Shintu Feng's face turned pale as his eyes turned bloodshot. At that moment, he had nearly lost control of the energy in his hands. As Yun had finished extracting the energy from the Yin Desolate Bone earlier than expected, Shintu Feng had naturally noticed this. He could not believe that it had happened. Due to the emotional upheaval Shintu Feng experienced, his mental energy was unstable, so he made a mistake with his saber sword Shura seals. Originally, with Shintu Feng's abilities, it was already not easy for him to use the saber sword Shura as he was not good at combat. Naturally, a person who was not good at combat was unable to perform the decisive killing intent required of the saber sword Shura. Now, Shintu Feng's saber and sword beams exploded continuously and the energy in his hands was about to undergo a complete meltdown. Once it happened, Shintu Feng would suffer the consequences of a spiritual backlash. Damaging his soul was considered a light injury, and the worst-case scenario was becoming a retard. The more he panicked, the more trouble he was in. Beads of sweat oozed out of his forehead. Damn it! Shintu Nantian, who was in the center of the disc array, was fast to react. As Shintu Feng had an accident, Shintu Nantian quickly woke up from the shock he had gotten from Yun completing the energy extraction of the Yin-labeled Desolate Bone. He pushed his hands forward as a Yuan Qi sword shot into the energy blob in front of Shintu Feng, steadily stabilizing the energy that nearly exploded. What are you panicking about? Shintu Nantian's fierce voice rang in Shintu Feng's ears. At this moment, Shintu Nantian was in a really bad mood. He had wished to take Yun down a notch, and he saw it about to succeed, but he did not know what method Yun had used to complete the task. And at this moment, Shintu Feng's made a mistake with the saber sword Shura. It nearly exploded in front of the audience. This made Shintu Nantian very pissed. He had really felt disgraced today. And all of this was due to that Yun Tian. Saber sword Shura, is it? Yun looked at the sealing technique Shintu Feng was using as his eyes sparkled. Previously, when Yun was busy extracting the energy from the Yin-labeled Desolate Bone, he did not have the mental resources to watch the technique carefully. Now with him watching it, he was quite alarmed. This technique did not look anything like the Desolate Heaven technique. It looked more like a sword and saber technique. Under the control of this sealing technique, the power of desolates in the Desolate Bone would condense into runic seals in the shape of swords and sabers. The sharp aura they emitted was alarming. Yun had no doubt that if these runic seals were sent flying, they could kill someone. Such a peculiar and powerful sealing technique made Yun slightly covet it. If I were to obtain this sealing technique, it would be great. As these thoughts lingered in Yun's mind, Shintu Feng had barely managed to complete the energy extraction from the Cho-labeled Desolate Bone with Shintu Nantian's help. Due to the accident from before, he was clearly drained. His mental energy had been overdraft and he could not take it anymore. Shintu Feng secretly gritted his teeth as he looked at Yi Yun. Up until now, he still did not know what happened. How did Yi Yun succeed in extracting the energy from the Yin labeled desolate bones so smoothly? Senior brother Nantian. Shut up! Shintu Feng wanted to use his Yuan Qi to transmit his voice, but he was brutally cut off by Shintu Nantian. Shintu Nantian was no longer in the mood to speak to Shintu Feng. Shintu Feng knew that he did not do well, so he did not dare speak again. He quietly swallowed a soul-nurturing pill and recovered some mental energy so as to prepare for the work that awaited him later. Shintu Nantian sullenly placed the primordial species blood in the center of the disc array. He no longer cared about Yi Yun. Compared to shining at this desolate heaven technique tea session and letting the stubborn old fools of the Lin family completely lean towards him, trampling on Yi Yun was nothing. Now, 3 of the 12 desolate bones' energy had been collected. This ancient bone refinement recipe could officially begin. What followed was for Shintu Nantian to showcase himself. Although his face had been smacked swollen, it did not matter. As long as he did things well in what followed, this desolate heaven technique tea session would be a great success. Chapter 403, For Images Seal. Shintu Nantian is finally going to show his hand. Seeing Shintu Nantian take the desolate beast's blood out, people were looking forward to it. Previously, Shintu Hai and Shintu Feng had displayed their extraordinary desolate heaven technique. It was all thanks to the discoveries the Shintu family clan had made in the mystic realm. Although Shintu Feng had been affected by Yi Yun, nearly causing his runic seal to explode, a flaw could not obscure the splendidness of Jade. Generally, the Lin family was envious of the Shintu family clan's strength in the desolate heaven technique. Now with it being Shintu Nantian's turn, it was the highlight of this round. Actually, Shintu Nantian was not considered to be a normal junior. He was past 30 years of age, and in many aspects, he exceeded Shintu Feng, Shintu Hai and Yi Yun. Whatever Shintu Hai and Shintu Feng could learn, Shintu Nantian had definitely learned it, and he would have mastered it even better. The disc array's light grew brighter. Beneath Shintu Nantian's feet, there was a total of 4 primordial species blood containers. All the lids of the containers had already been opened. Under the influence of Heaven-Earth Yuan Qi, red light swirled around them as the blood boiled. Shintu Nantian spread his arms out and his body slowly lifted off from the ground as he started to hover in midair. When warriors exceeded the Yuan Foundation realm, they could fly. Hence, hovering was nothing for Shintu Nantian. Shintu Nantian had begun forming seals with his hands. His hand motions were very slow. His slender jade-like fingers seemed to possess an inexplicable charm. It drew the surrounding audience to his finger skills in a subconscious manner. What ancient desolate heaven technique method is this now? People were trying to guess. As many of the ancient desolate heaven technique heritage had been lost for so long, even figures like Su Jiet and the Lin family's matriarch found it difficult to match what technique Shintu Nantian was using according to what was written in the books. At this moment, behind Shintu Nantian, colorful lights started to emerge. As these lights gathered together, they formed a phenomenon. People could see lush, green grass grow on the disc array by Shintu Nantian's feet. The grass was dotted with wildflowers. It looked extremely beautiful. It's a phenomenon image. The Lin family's elders shouted. Warriors could use their own Heaven-Earth Yuan Qi to condense phenomenon images. For example, Yi Yun also could use his Radiant Sun Qi to condense an image of the Tang Valley. However, phenomenon images were just illusions and they did not look very realistic. In contrast, Shintu Nantian's phenomenon image seemed to be a grassland that appeared before everyone present. People could faintly smell the fragrance from the grass and flowers. As the colorful lights grew in intensity, a spirit tree grew from the grassland. A spring then appeared in front of the spirit tree. As the spring water flowed, a human figure appeared by the spring. This figure was dressed in a green gown and a headband wrapped was around his head. He held a folding fan and he looked like a learned scholar who had accomplished much at a young age. The scholar strolled under the tree as he gently flapped his fan. He seemed to be reciting poetry and drawing art in the beautiful scene. The scene seemed magical and dreamlike. "This is Shintu Nanshan's aspect totem," a Lin family's elder said. "Oh? Aspect totem?" Humanoid aspect totems were very rarely seen. Back in the Tai A Divine City, during the alliance tournament between the Tai A Divine Kingdom and the Yun Long Divine Kingdom, Feng Lin had also shown her aspect totem. It was a sword-bearing maiden with 2 wings on her back. Compared to Feng Lin's aspect totem, Shintu Nanshan's aspect totem was even more realistic. Furthermore, the picturesque scene was so realistic that mortals would completely believe that a scholar was standing under the spirit tree. Shintu Nanshan's aspect totem is known as the Transcendent Immortal Paradise. While people were surprised at Shintu Nanshan's aspect totem, the Shintu family clan's thousand-hand granny introduced it with glee. Nanshan's aspect totem is comprised of an immortal paradise. As for the figure in the immortal paradise, it is Nanshan's incarnation. If one day this figure transforms into an immortal king, Nanshan's strength will reach an extreme limit. The thousand-hand granny was very proud of having a grandson like Shintu Nantian. Very few people had aspect totems that had phenomenon images accompanying them. Furthermore, this kind of aspect totems could also evolve. It could be said to be a supreme quality aspect totem. I see. Dear nephew Nantian is surely a dragon amongst people. Lin Shinton's grandaunt spoke at the appropriate moment. She liked Shintu Nantian the more she looked at him. In the Transcendent Immortal Paradise, the gentleman embodiment really suits dear nephew Nanshan's temperament. His aspect totem is just like him. The words jade-like gentleman really are the perfect portrayal of him. The woman in palatial gown praised him and she greatly pleased the thousand-hand granny. Her wrinkle-filled old face made her look like a walnut as a smile contorted her face. Jade-like gentleman? That sure is a phrase that insults a gentleman. Su Jiat curled his mouth. He could not be bothered to say anything else. If Shintu Nantian was a gentleman, then he was a saint. As Su Jia was silently cursing, a light flashed in his eyes. He could see thick blood beams being emitted from the 4 containers of primordial species blood around Shintu Nantian. In the blood beam, the souls of the desolate beasts emerged. Beast mark. When warriors condensed their aspect totem, they had to condense a beast mark from the desolate beast's corpse they had killed with their own hands. Only then could an aspect totem slowly form. And now, with Shintu Nantian displaying the desolate heaven technique, he had ended up condensing beast marks. Furthermore, these were beast marks condensed from blood left behind by primordial species. These 4 primordial species were not killed by Shintu Nantian. This meant that the beast marks Shintu Nantian had condensed were slightly different to the beast marks needed for aspect totems. This was actually a very ancient sealing technique, so profound that Su Jia did not understand it. For images seal. At this moment, the Lin family's matriarch said slowly. The 4 images were related to north, south, east and west. Each image corresponded to a divine beast, the azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and the black turtle. Of course, Shintu Nantian was unable to form seals using the blood from divine beasts. The desolate beast marks surrounding Shintu Nantian were as such, the east being the azure python, the west being the fierce divine tiger, the south being the firebird, and the north being the mystic turtle. These 4 desolate beasts also matched the divine beasts of the 4 images. The Lin family's matriarch had only seen records of such a sealing technique in books. The matriarch is well read. The thousand-hand granny said with a smile. Since the matriarch knows the 4 images seal, you should also know the power of this sealing technique. The 4 images seal was also the last thing the Shintu family clan had found in the mystic realm. This sealing technique needed to extract beast marks from the desolate beast's blood. It was used in conjunction with the desolate bones and it was suited for Shintu Nantian to practice. Now with the 4 images seal showcased, it was also the last killer technique to win the showdown for the younger generation. The thousand-hand granny believed that by showcasing these 3 ancient desolate heaven techniques consecutively, it was enough to shock and tempt the Lin family. I've heard that Miss Shintong is very accomplished in the desolate heaven technique. Why don't you show it to us? The thousand-hand granny suddenly turned towards Lin Shintong. She was not fond of Lin Shintong. Just as how the Lin family was wary of Shintu Nantian, the thousand-hand granny felt a natural mistrust and prejudice towards Lin Shintong. Due to the benefits gained from their getting together, she had to accept Shintu Nantian and Lin Shintong's marriage. However, she still wanted to take Lin Shintong down a notch before she was married into the Shintu family clan. She knew that Lin Shintong was still young. In addition to the limitations of her naturally terminated meridians, her accomplishments in the desolate heaven technique was naturally inferior to Shintu Nantian. Besides, Lin Shintong did not know any ancient desolate heaven techniques. With Shintu Nantian showing off such an eye-catching 4 images seal, Lin Shintong would definitely be put to shame no matter what method she used. Lin Shintong frowned and did not respond. She knew what the thousand-hand granny was thinking. She had to admit that Shintu Nantian's ability in the desolate heaven technique was unmatched amongst the younger generation. Ignore the old witch. Su Jie swore in his Yuan Qi transmission as it rang in Lin Shintong's ears. Unfortunately, this rascal Yun was not born a few years earlier. If that was the case, we don't have to see such an arrogant Shintu Nantian. Su Jie thought with hate. At this moment, Shintu Nantian's 4 images seal had reached its final critical moment. The 4 images seal was extremely difficult to use. Compared to the 4 images seal, the previous 5 elemental bone array and black-handed demon were like fireflies in front of the moon. They were not worth mentioning. Even with Shintu Nantian's ability, it was not easy for him to use the 4 images seal to such a stage. As his aspect totem burned, the colorful lights became brighter. Shintu Nantian had managed to splice the 4 desolate beast marks together with great difficulty. He was about to finish the final fusion. At this moment, a flash appeared in Yun's eyes. He had been standing in a corner and was ignored by everyone. The corner of his lips curved upwards, but no one could see it because of the mask. In Yun's soul, his mental energies were being circulated. From Yun's heart, gorgeous purple beams circulated in the purple crystal. However, no one could detect the purple beams. The 4 images seal Shintu Nantian was using was in essence energy. Furthermore, what had been just extracted from the primordial species blood was pure energy without an owner. Energy without an owner was basically food for the purple crystal. This was what Yun wished for. Chapter 404, There's no negotiation to screwing you over. Translator, Sitalan. Editor, Sitalan. Back in the desolate human valley, Yun had seen Lin Shintong refine bones. He then tried to manipulate the power of desolates Lin Shintong had extracted from the desolate bones using the purple crystal, and he had succeeded. This was what started Yun's ambition to become a desolate heaven master. He had obtained Su Jie's notebook from Lin Shintong, which was his first step in becoming a desolate heaven master. In this desolate heaven technique tea session, when Shintu Nantian requested Yun's cooperation, Yun had planned to use the purple crystal to interfere with Shintu Nantian at the critical moment to screw him over. Hence, even though Yun knew Shintu Nantian was targeting him, he had played along and accepted the challenge. Yun was not a magnanimous person. He would return things in fashion to whoever went against him. At the critical moment Shintu Nantian fused the 4 images seal, the bright light beams emitted by the purple crystal reached an extreme. A black swirl quietly formed and it began to form a powerful suction force on the 4 images seal. It immediately caused chaos to the 4 images seal. At that instant, Yun could clearly feel the array was being an obstacle to the purple crystal's power. The purple crystal could only absorb energy without an owner. The four images beast mark that was being extracted from the primordial strain's blood by Shintanantian had not been refined in time by Shintanantian, so they were pure energies without an owner. However, due to the confinement from Shintanantian's array, Yi felt some resistance from the ownerless energy at that instance. It was similar to how Yi felt the resistance of the great Yin Gold back in the Wilderness Divine Hall when he extracted the energy from the primordial strain statues. However, as Shintanantian was barely able to use the four images seal, all his mental energies was being occupied at that moment. He was at the limit of his limits. He could not control the four images seal freely as he wished. He could barely maintain its stability, and it could melt down any moment. At this point, the interference from the purple crystal's powers was no doubt beyond what Shintanantian could handle. What is going on? Shintanantian was alarmed. He suddenly discovered that the four images beast marks in his hands seemed to be like a wild horse that he had lost the reins to. It was struggling to rid itself of Shintanantian's bondage. And at that moment, how could Shintanantian have the additional mental energy to restrain the four images beast marks? As a result, the four beast marks clashed and shone brightly. It was like a burning sun, and it was about to explode any moment. A large number of elders in the Shinta family clan had not had the opportunity to come into contact with the four images seal. After the Shinta family clan obtained the four images seal, there was only one copy of the heritage, and it could only be provided to the most important figures in the Shinta family clan to learn. This four images seal is impressive. It is so powerful. A Shinta family clan elder said excitedly. The other Desolate Heaven technique sealing methods were gorgeous, but they were greatly lacking compared to the four images seal in terms of scale. Those seals were at best considered as fireworks, so how could they compare to the sun-like four images seal? Of course, amongst the three ancient Desolate Heaven technique skills obtained by our Shinta family clan in the mystic realm, the four images seal is ranked first. A few Shinta family clan elders endlessly praised the four images seal. They wished that they could quickly obtain the opportunity to learn this sealing technique. It would greatly enhance their Desolate Heaven technique abilities. The Lin family's elders were about to chime in. They were very envious of the Shinta family clan having such a fortuitous opportunity. Just as they were about to say something, they felt something was amiss. It seems something has gone wrong. They saw that Shintanantian, who was in the middle of the array, was flushed red. He was sweating profusely as green veins protruded from his forehead. The blood arteries along his neck looked like they were about to explode at any moment. Don't worry. There cannot be a problem. Besides, the four images seal is indeed not easy. Even with Nanshan's cultivation level, it is also barely. Some Shinta family clan elders spoke while stroking their beards. They did not know the exact results when the four images seal was used, so they naturally could not detect any abnormalities. They even thought that it was normal. Of course, amongst the Shinta family clan, there was one other person who had come into contact with the four images seal like Shintanantian. That person was the thousand-hand granny. She had just been bragging to the Lin family's matriarch, Su Jia and Lin Shintong about Shintanantian's prowess, but now, seeing the four images seal stability unhinged and that it was about to explode like a furnace, her smile had completely frozen. An alarmed flash appeared in her old, dimmed eyes. "Honor!" the thousand-hand granny exclaimed. The seat below her shattered as she rose up. She jumped up like an old toad and rushed to the center of the square. "Honor, hang on." The thousand-hand granny's expression had greatly changed. Her wizened hands were like chicken claws as she formed seals in the air. She tried to stabilize the terrifying energy in front of Shintanantian. At that moment, the four images beast mark energies were in complete chaos and they were on the brink of an explosion. Shintanantian's hair was disheveled as he looked ferocious. As he had greatly overdrafted his mental energy, his temples were at bursting point. His face was scrunched up like a crumpled drawing. He no longer looked anything like a jade-like gentleman. Seeing the thousand-hand granny fly over, Shintanantian bit the tip of his tongue and forced a mouthful of blood essence out. He intended to burn his blood essence and gain the power to be able to forcefully endure for just a split second. These 4 beast marks were formed from the essence chi of primordial strains. Once the 4 primordial strains' energy exploded, it would be no trifling matter. At that moment, Yi-Yun had quietly retreated to a safe distance. Seeing the thousand-hand granny send out runic seals, Shintanantian burning his essence blood and depleting his soul chi greatly, a deep smile appeared under Yi-Yun's mask. Let it explode. Yi-Yun moved his mouth slightly, and at that split moment, he powered the purple crystal to an extreme. He had been waiting for this moment. Boom! The weak energy balance between the 4 images beast marks was completely disrupted. The primordial strain's energies collided as powerful power of desolates surged out, transforming into a terrifying blast. Ah! The first to be hit was Shintanantian, and he let out a scream. Nearby, the thousand-hand granny widened her eyes. The seal she had just made needed 1/10 of the time it took to blink to be sent to the 4 images beast marks and stabilize the situation. However, this short time gap was like a moat that separated the heavens. With the energy exploding, the desolate heaven technique sealing technique was already useless. With great anger, the thousand-hand granny crushed her runic seals and flung her sleeves as she waved it towards the explosive energy blast. Pang! The thousand-hand granny's sleeve clashed with the energy blast. Colliding with her powerful yuan qi, the energy blast was instantly annihilated. However, Shintanantian was originally on the other side of the explosion. Although the thousand-hand granny was able to withstand most of the explosive energy, she could only block it on her side. As for Shintanantian's side, she could not help him at all. The primordial strain's energy was originally beyond Shintanantian's control. He had used the 4 images seal and the array beneath his feet to barely control it. Now with the primordial strain's energy exploding in front of him, how could Shintanantian withstand it? The remaining energy blast collided with Shintanantian's chest. He felt like his chest was hit by a mountain. His ribs and sternum were cracked and he spat out a mouthful of blood as he was sent flying. Honor! The thousand-hand granny was already at her wit's end. She reached out and her long sleeve wrapped around Shintanantian. However, Shintanantian's face was pale and his body trembling. Obviously, his condition was at its worst. Other than the heavy injuries inflicted to his chest where his sternum was fractured, his heart and lungs were damaged, and what was most important was the spiritual backlash to his soul. This ancient desolate heaven technique was a bone refinement technique that was neither orthodox nor heretic in nature, but its backlash was extremely powerful. Shintanantian had hoped to screw over Yi-Yun with the spiritual backlash, but now he had tasted his own medicine. He had suffered the spiritual backlash from the 4 images seal. Ka ka ka! The huge array beneath Shintanantian's feet cracked. On the 2 corners of the disc array, Shintafone and Shintahai had also been implicated by the energy blast as well. Although they were further away, their cultivation levels were incomparable to Shintanantian. Their condition was no better. Both of them were injured with their organs damaged. Their mouths were full of blood. The only thing better for them than Shintanantian was that they didn't suffer from the spiritual backlash. It was much easier for them to recover from their injuries. And only Yi-Yun had retreated in advance since he knew that there would be an explosion. At the moment of the explosion, he had hidden behind a green bronze furnace in the corner of the square. This green bronze furnace was forged by the Lin family, and it was a magical item used to suppress the heaven-earth yuan qi in the Tianhua garden. Naturally, it was not destroyed by the explosion Shintanantian had caused. Hence, out of the 4 young people present, only Yi-Yun was not affected. After the explosion cleared, Shintanantian, who was high-spirited and vigorous, was now like a dead fish. Similarly, Shintahai and Shintafong, who had stolen the show, were like roadkill. Everyone present,
Be it the Lin family's elders or the Shinto family clan's elders, as well as the juniors from both families, were dumbfounded.
What the hell happened? The situation had reversed so quickly no one had had the opportunity to react. What had been a grand scene of showcasing the ancient desolate heaven technique had now turned into a bad situation. Amongst the three brightest heroes of the Shinto family clan, two of them were lying on the ground, and another was being wrapped by the 1,000-hand granny sleeves and barely breathing. As for the large disc array beneath their feet, it had completely shattered. And at that moment, the audience happened to see Yi Yun casually coming out from behind the large furnace. Amongst the four of them, his cultivation level was the lowest and he was the youngest. However, not only was Yi Yun not injured, he did not even lose a single hair. Seeing Yi Yun in his state, the expressions on everyone's face odd. He formed a sharp contrast compared to Shinto Nantian and company. What the hell is this? Many people felt a knot in their throats as their mouths were agape for a long while.
The Shinto family clan's elders were the most devastated.
They had just been bragging and now, with a shocking reversal happening, they were in a state of disbelief. The script should not have been like this. It should have been Shinto Nantian showcasing his skills, perfectly completing the 4 images seal, and refining a desolate bone relic from an ancient recipe.
Chapter 405, The Blow Shinto Nantian Suffered. Translator, Sitalan. Editor, Sitalan. T-Honor, are you alright? T-Honor.
Seeing Shinto Nantian in such a state, the 1,000-hand granny was extremely worried.
Having one's soul damaged was not a trifling matter.
The 4 images beast marks were especially fraught with dangers as it was an ancient desolate heaven technique. In the records, there was no lack of ancient desolate heaven masters who tried various dangerous bone refining experiments, resulting in them suffering spiritual backlashes, becoming mentally slow or crazy.
People called this a chi deviation.
Shinto Nantian's 4 images seal was used to showcase his strengths and was forcefully displayed. Such a bone refinement process that was infinitely pushing his limits would be even more dangerous once a spiritual backlash was dealt. Although the Shinto family clan had all sorts of top-grade soul-nurturing drugs, there was a possibility of not curing the root of the problem, leaving repercussions.
Shinto Nantian could no longer speak. The backlash suffered from the beast marks of primordial strains were too great.
His face was ashen and his lips purple. The only things on his mind were the various moments before the final explosion. He still could not figure out what problem led to the energy suddenly going beyond control. The 1,000-hand granny took out a green pill bottle from her interspatial ring. She poured all the crystal-clear pills out and stuffed them into Shinto Nantian's mouth. These pills were the 1,000-hand granny's own top-grade pills. As the 1,000-hand granny was one of the top-ranking desolate heaven masters in the Shinto family clan, the value of her pills was obvious. However, at that moment, she could not care less about being stingy.
Curing Shinto Nantian's injuries were what mattered most.
Once the entire bottle's pills entered his stomach, Shinto Nantian's condition seemed to improve by a bit.
Granny, I.
Shinto Nantian found it difficult to breathe as he felt discomfort in his heart.
He was an extremely proud person.
He had specially prepared for this desolate heaven technique tea session. He wanted to awe and shine before the Lin family, the Shinto family clan and all the important figures of the visiting family clans that had relations with the two families. He had elevated himself greatly and did lots of groundwork and preparations, just to let people think the Shinto family clan's desolate heaven technique heritage was unfathomable, with his own abilities being absolutely stunning. But now, while he was proving himself, trying to realize that impression into reality, everything was for naught. He had thrown all his face in front of all the important figures amongst the large family clans.
And amongst the audience, it included his fiancée, Lin Shinton. The magnitude of the setback Shinto Nantian suffered was obvious.
Now, while Shinto Nantian was enduring his injuries, there was not only the injury to his body and soul, there was also the blow to his confidence and self-esteem.
T-Honor, what happened?
The 1,000-hand granny was also unsure of what had happened. As a bystander, she naturally did not know as much about the energy changes of the four images beast marks at the final moment compared to Shinto Nantian himself.
However, Shinto Nantian shook his head.
He too was not sure what had happened. The four images seal which he had chosen was a sealing technique he was very confident in. He had succeeded with it several times, but he never expected that at the final critical moment, something went wrong, and yet he still did not know where the problem lied. After all, it was an ancient desolate heaven technique that was a heritage that was neither systematic or complete. Shinto Nanshin's understanding of the desolate heaven technique wasn't that great, so an occasional accident that he did not know the reason to was quite normal.
Alright, don't speak. Just recuperate. The thousand-hand granny frowned.
She was determined to figure out where the problem lied. If this happened another few more times, the Shinto family clan would definitely not be able to afford it. Seeing Shinto Nantian being brought down the square with the thousand-hand granny's support, the Lin family's elders shook their heads in their minds. An elder said secretly, "This Shinto Nantian is after all young and impetuous. He chose a bone refining technique that he could not handle, ruining an otherwise clever plan. He should have the sense to choose a sealing technique that is lesser in difficulty. Then, this would not have happened."
Seeing Shinto Nantian in such a state, the Lin family's elders naturally did not pity him. Of course, on the surface, they would not gloat over his misfortune.
For this desolate heaven technique tea session, the Lin family was clearly inferior to the Shinto family clan, as the Lin family's desolate heaven technique heritage was lacking. Furthermore, the Shinto family clan had obtained a lot in the mystic realm. So for the outcome to end in such a manner despite the huge difference between the two families' abilities, the Lin family was very pleased.
"Yantian, you should be fine, right?"
When Yi-Yun came down the square, Su Jie laughed. He had already noticed that Yi-Yun was completely fine having hidden behind the large furnace. Su Jie did not know what had gone wrong with Shinto Nantian, but seeing him be blown to such a lifeless state, Su Jie felt joy deep down. "I'll see how arrogant you can be." With Su Jie's words, many people looked towards Yi-Yun. At this desolate heaven technique tea session, Yi-Yun was originally a small fry. However, once the competition began, no one could ignore him. Previously, he had defeated Song Ziyue. Next, he had accepted Shinto Nanshin's challenge, and perfectly completed his task during the ancient bone refinement process. He had produced brilliant results for the two desolate heaven technique showdowns. And in the end, when the four beast marks exploded under Shinto Nanshin's control, Yi-Yun was the only person who managed to dodge in time. In contrast, Shinto Foam and Shinto Hide were all much slower to react. Actually, there were already many indications that the situation was not right. For example, veins had bulged on Shinto Nanshin's neck and forehead to the point of them nearly exploding. And Shinto Nanshin's profuse sweating and bursting temples all illustrated this point. Previously, the Lin family elders had already noticed something amiss. However, when it was mentioned, the Shinto family clan's elders remained confident and blindly believed in Shinto Nantian. And at that moment, it all boiled down to one's personal judgment of how the four images seal, which no one knew well, was performing. Not everyone could instantaneously make a quick and precise judgment call from all these tiny clues. However, Yi-Yun had managed to do it. Compared to Shinto Hai and Shinto Foam, who had stood there in a daze, Yi-Yun's judgment and sensitivity were clearly on a different level. This person was most suited to explore mystic realms. Dangers awaited in mystic realms in unsuspected ways. A small discrepancy might not seem much, but it could devour the lives of a dozen people in a blink of an eye. Only those people who were on constant alert could go farther and live longer. "Elder Su, you took in a good disciple." "Son," the middle-aged man patted Su Jiao on the shoulder and looked at Yi-Yun with envy. To have such a disciple taking over their mantle was the dream many desolate heaven masters had.
"Ah, it's all right, it's all right,"
Su Jia boasted without turning red. Yi-Yun rolled his eyes hearing this. This old fellow had really treated him as a disciple he had discovered. Yi Yun still remembered that Su Jie had taken him in as an in-name disciple because he wanted to eat roasted meat every day. "Yi Yun, you worked hard." At that moment, Yi Yun heard a gentle voice transmission. Yi Yun turned his head and saw the white-dressed Lin Shintong smiling at him. She slightly curved her lips, which looked like a silent crescent. Her bright eyes seemed like a pool of spring water. Yi Yun always found Lin Shintong as a quiet girl. Whether it was her speaking or smiling, they were always so composed and light. "I would never have expected that you had grown to this extent in the 2 years we have not met. Your level of the desolate heaven technique has surprised me." Thinking back to the scene of meeting Yi Yun in the cloud wilderness, no one would have expected the plain youth to mature in such a way today. If he was given another 10 years, he would be able to take charge of his own endeavors and shine. Chapter 406, Great Empress Relic. Due to Shintu Nanshan's spiritual injuries as well as Shintu Hai and Shintu Feng also being wounded, the first day of the Desolate Heaven Technique tea session, which was supposed to end at sunset, came to an early conclusion. Shintu Nantian was supposed to be the star of the Desolate Heaven Technique tea session. The Shintu family clan had intended to use the tea session to let Shintu Nantian build a good relationship with the upper echelons of the Lin family. At the same time, they planned for him to display his abilities, letting the old fellows of the Lin family realize his awesomeness. However, with the situation like this, all the song and dance that had been planned for the stage was devastated. The Shintu family clan did not feel proud about it. The Desolate Heaven Technique showdown between the older generation, which was to be the main highlight, was delayed to 3 days later. After the tea session ended, the Shintu family clan gathered a few of their elders to analyze what had gone wrong at the last moment in Shintu Nanshan's 4 images seal. However, even after analyzing it all day, they still could not figure anything out. This was quite demanding for them, as besides the 1,000-hand granny, the others had never come into contact with the 4 images seal. Furthermore, Shintu Nantian, the person directly involved, could only give a vague description of what happened. This made the 1,000-hand granny's old face scrunch up. Her greatest fear was that there was a problem with the heritage. As it was a heritage obtained by them in a mystic realm, the 4 images seal was definitely part of an ancient Desolate Heaven Technique heritage. There was no doubt to that. However, what the 1,000-hand granny feared was whether the 4 images seal required the use of other Desolate Heaven techniques in combination with it. In the martial world, there was no lack of cultivation technique manuals which required another cultivation technique as a foundation. Without the foundation, problems ranging from damaging one's yuan qi to suffering a qidong deviation could occur. As to whether there was someone who caused Shintu Nanshan's 4 images seal to fail, the 1,000-hand granny never even entertained the thought. At the tea session, there were so many experts watching. With countless numbers of eyes and spiritual energies pervading the square, who could have the ability to bypass the perceptions of all of them and secretly sabotage it? As the Shintu family clan's elders were racking their brains trying to figure out what went wrong with the 4 images seal, the culprit Yi Yun was at the Lin family's Silk Peak, participating in a victory party. Actually, with Yi Yun's personality, he would not be interested in such celebration parties. The time was better off spent cultivating. However, Su Jie had made it clear that the matriarch held the party because of the Desolate Heaven Technique tea session. And Yi Yun was the star of the party. If the star did not participate, then the party would lose its meaning. As Yi Yun was still new to the Lin family, it was best to keep a low profile. If Yi Yun rejected the invitation the matriarch sent, then it would inevitably lead to widespread criticism of him not being able to appreciate favors. The Silk Peak was not one of the Lin family's 18 main peaks. It was a small mountain situated in the external perimeter of the main peaks. The Silk Peak was about half the height of the other 18 main peaks, but there were plenty of spiritual flowers there, and these flowers grouped together like silk, giving Silk Peak its name. Other than some miscellaneous events being held at Silk Peak, not many of the family's disciples stayed here. Whenever there were any internal family celebrations, they would be held on Silk Peak. At this moment, in the opulent Silk Palace by the slope of the Silk Peak, there were hundreds of people gathered.
There were a few of the Lin family elders amongst them. The others were all juniors about the same age as Yi Yun.
And amongst the few elders, there was Yi Yun's chief master, Su Jia, and the Lin family's matriarch. The matriarch held a dragon-head walking stick and had her white hair was pulled back in a bun. Her hair bun was adorned with a piece of jade and she was giving Yi Yun a loving smile.
Little friend Yun, welcome to the Lin family.
Your master Su Jia is the Lin family's guest elder, so you can treat the Lin family as your own home and do not need to feel restrained. When the surrounding juniors heard the matriarch's simple words, they were secretly envious of Yi Yun. The Lin family had many disciples, and many of them were part of their direct bloodline, yet most of them had never received the chance to directly speak to the matriarch.
And now, the matriarch was especially warm towards Yi Yun at the Lin family's celebration party. The treatment she gave Yi Yun by specifically saying those welcoming words made them envious. The treatment many of these direct bloodline children received did not even match an outsider like Yi Yun.
However, there was nothing they could do. After all, Yi Yun had demonstrated monstrous talent in the desolate heaven technique.
This junior thanks the matriarch.
This junior is greatly flattered by the love the matriarch provides me. Yi Yun humbly bowed as the matriarch's smile turned especially bright. She was even more satisfied with Yi Yun.
This is a party for you young people. These old bones will not be joining. After the matriarch said a few more words, she took her leave.
Shintong, have fun with them. The matriarch turned her head and spoke to Lin Shintong, who was behind her. Lin Shintong was still dressed in that spotless white dress of hers, but there was now a jade hair accessory on her head. This made her seem less distant, but also made her more charming.
All right. I will help you out.
Lin Shintong smiled at Yi Yun before helping the matriarch. The party officially began, and without the Lin family's elders, the juniors became more carefree.
Many of the Lin family's disciples would spend most of their time cultivating.
Even when they had free time, they could not go wild due to the various family restrictions. However, because of this celebration party, many of the youths could completely let their hair down. And Yi Yun was no doubt the focus of the party.
Senior brother Yun, my name is Lin Kai-yun.
I am also learning the Desolate Heaven technique and have been learning it for 2 years.
However, I am still greatly lacking and can barely refine relics of the lowest grade.
A 14 to 15-year-old girl of small stature and big eyes looked at Yi Yun without blinking. Senior brother Yun, your Desolate Heaven technique is so awesome.
Is there a secret to it? If you have the time, can you enlighten me? I am also a beginner in the Desolate Heaven technique. There are many theories I am still learning. As for the techniques I know, it might be fewer than what you know.
After Yi Yun ate something, he quickly realized he was especially popular amongst the girls. Girls, one after another, would solicit Yi Yun for various reasons. Of course, most of them did so by discussing the Desolate Heaven technique. After the big-eyed girl left, a 18 to 19-year-old girl with a tall and full figure replaced her.
Hee, little brother Yun, your Desolate Heaven technique is indeed not bad.
However, a warrior should have some means of self-defense.
Are you interested in learning swords?
This elder's sister can teach you. The girl's voice was crisp and tender, and sounded like music to one's ears. Yi Yun was a bit helpless. Ever since he came to this alternate world 2 years ago, girls did not seem to take the initiative to woo him, but today, there were suddenly more than 5 of them.
There is no need.
I do not have the intention on learning swords from others.
Yi Yun could only reject. About the way of the sword, Yi Yun's accomplishments were extraordinary.
Of course, he had no intention to learn from others.
Junior brother Yun.
At this moment, a refreshing voice rang in Yi Yun's ear. Yi Yun turned around and saw the picturesque fairy-like Lin Shintong. After sending the matriarch off, she had returned to the party. The moment Lin Shintong appeared, the few girls surrounding Yi Yun immediately knew to back off.
Amongst the younger generation of the Lin family, Lin Xintong's status was extremely special.
Lin Xintong gave a slight smile, and with a voice transmission, whispered, "This celebration party has the intention of letting the boys and girls of the younger generation mingle together. The Lin family's matriarch has already decided to keep you in the Lin family."
Oh? Yi Yun was stunned.
He understood what Lin Xintong meant.
The celebration party was just an excuse, calling it a blind date would be more appropriate.
Yi Yun knew that he was a rare talent for the Lin family, having shown his talent and bright future.
And many of the young girls of the Lin family would be willing to marry Yi Yun.
Yi Yun was handsome, and with his extraordinary talent, it was easy for him to grab the hearts of the young girls. Furthermore, marrying such a desolate heaven master would make one's future martial path even smoother, as there would be no lack of resources. In a large family clan like the Lin family, the girls were not as reserved as the Tai Divine Kingdom's nobles.
They would pursue what they wanted. The matriarch probably wishes to see you marry one of the girls in the family.
This way, the relationships will be even more stable. Maybe not long from now, there will be a matchmaker who will matchmake you. Sometimes, children of the family marry late, but they would get engaged very early. Lin Xintong's expression seemed like she was both smiling and not smiling at the same time.
It was hard to tell what she was thinking.
Yi Yun felt a bit speechless hearing this as he frowned.
This was reasonable.
In the Tianyuan world, where the family clans gained their power from their children, marriage was indeed a very stable relation.
Well, and there is another thing.
Suddenly, Lin Xintong changed the topic and her voice turned serious. At this desolate heaven technique tea session, the Shintu family clan may have suffered greatly, but the number of Lin family's elders who support the Shintu family clan has actually increased.
Oh? Yi Yun frowned. This was not good news.
If the Lin family really forged an alliance with the Shintu family clan, then ignoring what Lin Xintong's fate would be, just his identity alone would be impossible to conceal forever. This was the reason why Lin Xintong highlighted this to Yi Yun. Lin Xintong's marriage was actually a matter that was far in the future. However, the alliance between the Lin family and the Shintu family clan would be forged much earlier and quicker.
This was of course not something Yi Yun wished to see. Is it because the Shintu family clan demonstrated many ancient desolate heaven technique heritages? Yi Yun asked. He knew that these ancient desolate heaven technique heritages were very tempting for the Lin family.
Furthermore, with the Shintu family clan willing to share them with the Lin family, it would be a very favorable condition. That is just a minor reason. Lin Xintong gently shook her head. The most important reason is that the Shintu family clan has finally agreed to first refine a few of the peerless great empress's ancient recipes relics for me to try. Previously, the Shintu family clan was unwilling to do so, as every relic made from the ancient recipe required a very high cost. When Lin Xintong said this, Yi Yun was stunned. The Shintu family clan was already willing to refine the ancient great empress's relic.
Chapter 408, 1-year deadline.
3 days later, the desolate heaven technique tea session resumed. This time, it was the stage of the older generation like Su Jie. Shintu Nantian was absent. Ignoring the damage to his soul, even if he had completely recovered, he still wouldn't have the face to appear at the tea session again. For a proud person like him to embarrass himself as he did, at such an important occasion, was a really heavy blow that few could understand. At the tea session for the older generation, Yi Yun only watched, from the beginning to end. While watching it, he opened his energy vision and paid attention to the sealing techniques the elders of the Lin family and Shintu family clan used, and studied the essence of their desolate heaven techniques. During this process, Yi Yun did not attempt to sabotage by using the purple crystal. After all, this was the older generation of desolate heaven masters. Their control of energy was not like Shintu Nanshan's, who was at his limits. It was only because Shintu Nantian was at his limits that it was so easy for Yi Yun to use the purple crystal. Against the older desolate heaven masters, Yi Yun may be able to cause trouble with the purple crystal, but it was much more difficult. Also, forcefully reversing the energy flow trajectories would increase the risk of being discovered. Furthermore, if this thing happened time and again, it would make people suspicious. Finally, even if his sabotaging succeeded, it would be meaningless as the Shinto family clan had already made a concession by letting Lin Shintong trial the desolate bone relic they refined. Then, regardless of the tea session's outcome, the Lin family would first see the results Lin Shintong had after eating the desolate bone relic before they made a decision. Compared to the younger generation, the desolate heaven technique skills displayed by the older generation were even more exaggerated. They could be described as being spectacular. And overall, the Shinto family clan held the advantage. Even though Su Jie and company used all the skills they had, they could not compete with the large number of people that the Shinto family clan had. At the end, the Shinto family clan sent a grand elder to display his desolate heaven technique. He was extremely thin, and seemed like a walking zombie, but his desolate heaven technique completely surpassed Su Jie. No one in the entire tea session could compete with him. The desolate heaven technique tea session for the older generation lasted for 3 days. In the end, the Shinto family clan managed to win back a bit of face. After the desolate heaven technique tea session ended, the Shinto family clan entourage did not leave the Lin family, instead they stayed in the Lin family's Tianhua Peak. In a blink an eye, half a month passed. Today was extremely important for both the Lin family and the Shinto family clan. This was because this was the day when Lin Shintong got to trial the medicine. If it succeeded, then the Lin family would very likely gain a peerless great empress. Then, the achievements Lin Shintong would have in the future would be on par with the ancient great empress. And the Shinto family clan would form an alliance with the Lin family as they wished, while Shinto Nantian would get his wish of becoming Lin Shintong's partner and obtain great benefits. However, if it were to fail, my Shinto family clan have made several preparations for this matter. It is also the only copy of the peerless great empress's recipe found in the ancient mystic realm, so how can it fail? The Lin family used a square that was dedicated for large-scale sacrificial activities. People from the Lin family clan and the Shinto family clan gathered here and took their seats. Shinto Nantian sat on a front row bench and was calmly and confidently answering the doubts a Lin family elder had. Previously, at the Desolate Heaven Technique tea session, Shinto Nantian had suffered a spiritual backlash and had nursed his health over the period of time. He used various medicines without considering their costs, resulting in him finally being able to leave the bed. In fact, the Shinto family clan had waited for half a month mainly to allow Shinto Nantian to regain the ability to get off the bed. After all, Shinto Nantian was the star of the show today. If he did not attend it, it would be outrageous. However, Shinto Nantian's soul had not completely recovered. If he were to fight, or use the Desolate Heaven technique, he would completely collapse. Appearance. Furthermore, today was the day when the Shinto family clan took out the Great Empress relic to prove its effects. He could then use the opportunity to force the Lin family to decide on a marriage date for Lin Shintong. He did not want to drag it out any further with the Lin family by pushing and pulling. He believed that with Lin Shintong's life at stake, and having already thought about the different reasons, the upper echelons of the Lin family, including the matriarch, would have no choice but to agree to this matter. And if he were to obtain Lin Shintong's primordial yin, and have cultivational intercourse frequently, he would be able to look forward to becoming a great emperor. Just thinking of this made Shinto Nantian feel even more high-spirited. The other people of the Shinto family clan were feeling the same. The Lin family realized that all the people from the Shinto family clan came with a tinge of obvious pride. It looked like they were extremely confident in the desolate bone relic refined by using the Great Empress' ancient recipe. Although these people did not like the way the Shinto family clan behaved, it was after all a thought. The Lin family all ended up becoming anticipant and started to feel confident about the desolate bone relic. And for today's main character, Lin Shintong, her expression was calm as she quietly sat there as if she was a fairy that was meditating. As the person who should feel the greatest emotions, she was the most indifferent. At this moment, Yi Yun appeared together with Su Jia. When Lin Xintong saw Yi Yun, she revealed a faint smile and nodded at Yi Yun. Yi Yun saw it and smiled back. Seeing this scene, Shintu Nanshan's expression sank. The triumphant smile he had on his face turned stiff. Yi Yun also sensed Shintu Nanshan's gaze. He turned his head and stared coldly at Shintu Nantian through his mask. Shintu Nantian quietly and tightly gripped the fan in his hands as his eyes flashed coldly. Yi Yun's gaze made him feel extremely uncomfortable. Just seeing Yi Yun appear immediately reminded Shintu Nantian of how he fumbled at the Desolate Heaven Technique tea session half a month ago. It was the greatest stain Shintu Nantian had ever suffered in his 30 years of living. If this was not the Lin family grounds, he would have smacked Yi Yun to death with one hit. However, although he could not do anything to Yi Yun now, he would become Lin Xintong's partner after Lin Xintong took the medicine. He would then become half the master of the Lin family. Then, wouldn't a small fry like Yi Yun be easily disposed of by him? Shintu Nantian squinted his eyes at Yi Yun before turning his head to the Lin family's matriarch, saying, "Matriarch, the auspicious hour to take the medicine is nearing. Let us invite out the desolate bone relic." He smiled as he spoke and gently flapped his fan. Although he sounded calm, anyone could hear the hint of pride and confidence in Shintu Nanshan's voice. Were they this sure that the desolate bone relic would definitely be effective on Lin Xintong? All right. The Lin family's matriarch nodded. With the Lin family's matriarch words, a few elders of the Shintu family clan immediately stood up. Shintu Nantian also stood up and walked with them to the middle of the square. Immediately, everyone from the Lin family stretched out their necks to focus on them. What would the desolate bone relic refined from the great empress' ancient recipe look like? Feeling everyone's gaze landing on him, Shintu Nantian smiled as he reached out his hand to swipe his interspatial ring. A stone box with complex patterns and a powerful presence appeared in midair. To prevent the desolate bone relic's medicinal strength from depleting, our Shintu family clan have especially used everlasting purple gold and a top refiner master to manufacture this medicine box. Just this box alone is extremely valuable and can be compared to a city. However, if it was to be compared to the desolate bone relic inside, then it would be like a piece of dirt compared to a pearl. Shintu Nantian smiled as he said loudly. The city he mentioned was naturally a warrior city in the Tianyuan world. Many of the cities in the Tianyuan world had millions of years of history. Many of the surrounding people from the Lin family had heard of everlasting purple gold. Many juniors could not help but exclaim. Just the box storing the medicine is already so expensive. This relic sure is worth the wait. Indeed, if they do not have any confidence, the Shintu family clan would not have brought the desolate bone relic here. This time, our Lin family will produce a peerless great empress. This would be a great matter for both of our families. As Yi Yun had made an outstanding performance at the Desolate Heaven Technique tea session, his standing amongst the Lin family juniors was now extraordinary. At this event, he had the right to sit on a chair, while the juniors, who were discussing, were standing behind their masters. Hearing their discussions, Yi Yun took a deep breath as he waited silently for the result. It was indeed a very important matter if Lin Xintong managed to join up her terminated meridians. Even the matriarch stared unblinkingly at the medicine box Shintu Nantian had taken out. The other members of the upper echelons of the Lin family also began to whisper and discuss. The grandaunt's voice was particularly striking. "I already said Nantian would not disappoint us. Look at how sincere the Shintu family clan is. This relic will definitely give us a pleasant surprise. As long as the terminated meridians are joined up, then there is no need to delay Xintong's marriage." As she said this, she looked towards Lin Xintong. However, she was disappointed as Lin Xintong's expression still remained as calm as before. Those not in the know would have thought that this matter had nothing to do with her. Grandaunt is right. This marriage cannot be delayed any longer. Furthermore, the great Empress relics used to heal Xintong totals to 12 relics.
After taking the first one, then another has to be taken every month.
As such, the relics would be finished within a year. Shintu Nantian said this slowly as his gaze landed on Lin Shintong and the matriarch for a while. His smile seemed to imply that he had everything in control. Lin Shintong frowned and her watery eyes looked towards Shintu Nantian. Within a year. This meant that the Lin family clan had to make their decision on the marriage within a year. The Shintu family clan would definitely not allow the marriage to be dragged on any further after handing the 12 relics to the Lin family. This meant that the Lin family had to make the decision on the matter of marriage in the coming months. Lin Shintong did not know if what Shintu Nantian said about taking the 12 relics continuously every month was true. Maybe it was a lie fabricated by Shintu Nantian to force the Lin family, but this was no longer important. The Shintu family clan just needed a legitimate reason to force the Lin family into making a decision. The Lin family's matriarch sighed. Whatever Lin Shintong thought of, she had naturally thought of. This had destroyed her intentions of delaying the marriage date.
Chapter 409, Small Black Snake. A year. The matriarch's expression sank slightly as she looked at Lin Shintong. At this moment, she too was in a dilemma. She finally knew why the Shintu family clan was willing to make a concession and let Lin Shintong trial the Great Empress relic. According to what the Shintu family clan said, this Great Empress relic was extremely expensive. It was not easy to refine every single relic. The Shintu family clan would definitely not allow Lin Shintong to trial a relic and give the Lin family years to decide. It was impossible for them to re-refine another similar relic to heal Lin Shintong's terminated meridians when the decision is made. Now, by letting Lin Shintong eat the first relic, she needed to consume a desolate bone relic every month for the next 11 months. This meant that the Lin family had to decide on the Shintu family clan's marriage proposal. For Lin Shintong's grandaunt, and the elders in the Lin family who supported the Shintu family clan, they did not have any objections. The grandaunt smiled happily and said, "Dear nephew Nantian, please don't keep us guessing. Quickly, take the Great Empress relic out and let it be an eye-opener for us." With her saying this, the sixth granduncle and other Lin family elders echoed, eager to see the relic. "All right, I will open the box."
This desolate bone relic was a result of the collective efforts of our Shintu family clan's top desolate heaven masters and some reclusive experts. They used large amounts of treasured materials to successfully refine this. After the Great Empress relic was successfully refined, it was immediately sealed in the relic box. On this relic box, there are 7 seals. 6 of them have already been removed, and the final critical seal can only be removed using my mental energy.
This is to prevent its medicinal properties from losing its efficiency.
As Shintu Nantian spoke, be it his tone or attitude, he exuded a tinge of pride. It was as if he had swept away all the unpleasant things said of him bumbling at the Desolate Heaven Technique tea session a few days ago.
When Shintu Nantian took the Great Empress relic out, he was really elated.
With the relic in hand, even the upper echelons of the Lin family had to be deferential towards him, let alone the Lin family's younger generation. One of the 7 seals can only be removed using Shintu Nantian's mental energy. The Shintu family clan sure wants to highlight the important status of Shintu Nantian.
The matriarch pondered.
She knew why the Shintu family clan had made such an arrangement. The desolate bone relic refinement process had nothing to do with Shintu Nantian, yet, the Shintu family clan had specially prepared a seal that needed Shintu Nantian's mental energy for it to be released. This was to forcefully add a halo on Shintu Nantian, and it was also telling the Lin family that Shintu Nantian would be the master of the Shintu family clan in the future, and his status in the Shintu family clan was extraordinary.
"All right, I am going to release the seal. Please anticipate it." Shintu Nantian smiled and he began forming a few hand seals as he injected his mental energy into the everlasting purple gold relic box.
The mental energy needed to verify the mental energy seal was negligible, but as Shintu Nantian was seriously injured, just releasing the seal made his expression change slightly, as his lips turned slightly pale.
Shintu Nantian took a deep breath and he suppressed the pain in his soul. He pretended to easily open the relic box.
At this moment, everybody could see the throbbing green vein on his forehead. He was clearly in great pain. However, at this moment, no one cared about laughing at Shintu Nantian as all the focus was on the great Empress relic in the box. In the everlasting purple gold medicine box, it was layered with white heavenly silk satin. Above the satin, there was a crystal-like relic. This relic was not spherical in shape, but it was ring-like. In the hole in the middle of the relic, there was a small, red snake's phantom image swimming around slowly.
Shintu Nantian took the great Empress relic out with both hands.
This relic was like a little sun, as it emitted extremely pure yang qi.
And the relic itself seemed to have a life of its own. A glance could tell the extraordinary value it had. It is indeed a treasure. The eyes of the Lin family's elders lit up. They could tell the value of the relic at a glance and they could not stop discussing about it. That red snake phantom is a condensation of a pure yang spirit. This great Empress relic is also a pure yang item. Indeed, Shinto's naturally terminated meridians is because of having an overly pure yin body.
Only an extreme yang item can help join Shinto's terminated meridians up. If I'm not wrong, the material of this relic has the life essence bone of a primordial true spirit desolate beast. Also, it is a primordial true spirit desolate beast that expirates pure yang qi. Primordial true spirit grade desolate beasts were extremely scarce and they could only be found deep in the divine wilderness, so it was hard to capture one.
And pure yang elemental primordial true spirit desolate beasts were even rarer. The value of the bones of such desolate beasts was unimaginable. No wonder the Shintu family clan is so confident.
With the great Empress relic at this grade, there is a 80 to 90% chance of joining Shinto's terminated meridians up. Several of the older generation desolate heaven masters from the Lin family turned excited upon seeing the desolate bone relic. This feeling was like a sword master seeing a top-grade sword. Just seeing a relic of such a grade was a great joy for them. Furthermore, there were still 11 other relics of this grade. After appraising the great Empress relic, everyone's eyes gathered on Lin Shinto. They were waiting to see if the great Empress relic would be effective for Lin Shinto.
This was something that the Lin family elders were greatly looking forward to. This elder has a good eye.
Shintu Nantian suffused a proud smile. This great Empress relic is indeed refined from a pure yang elemental primordial true spirit's life essence bone. As for what primordial true spirit it is not convenient for me to disclose it. Our Shintu family clan managed to refine 12 relics exactly using the primordial true spirit's life essence bone.
These relics have an invisible link to them. They were refined as a set. People could not tell if what Shintu Nantian said was true. They knew that by emphasizing this once again, it meant that once the bone relic was eaten, the Lin family had to make a decision. They could not let the Shintu family clan waste an entire primordial true spirit's life essence bone just for a trial. Lin Shinto remained silent. She knew that Shintu Nantian was forcing their hand. This made her not want to trial the relic, because once she ate it, they would owe the Shintu family clan, resulting in a complicated situation. Shinto. The matriarch could tell what was on Lin Shinto's mind.
At this moment, even the matriarch, who always adored Lin Shinto, would not stand on her side.
Large family clans needed to consider niceties. The Lin family had already agreed to letting Lin Shinto trial the great Empress relic, and now, the Shintu family clan had already shown their sincerity, so if the Lin family were to change their tune, they would be criticized by others. Besides, the critical point was that this great Empress relic had also stirred the matriarch's heart. She was increasingly convinced that the Shintu family clan had the ability to heal Lin Shinto's naturally terminated meridians. Without any confidence, would the Shintu family clan have invited various important figures from the large family clans to witness this occasion? I never expected the Shintu family clan could produce such a relic.
Not far from Lin Xintong, Su Jie was also sighing as he quietly shook his head. Even Su Jie, who did not like the Shintu family clan, had nothing to say about the great empress relic. If Su Jie spoke truthfully, he too wished that Lin Xintong would try it. After all, the chances of him using his abilities to join Lin Xintong's naturally terminated meridians was extremely small. He too did not want to see Lin Xintong die at a young age, wasting her extraordinary talent. Xintong, consider it carefully. A strong arrow must be shot. If you do not trial the great empress relic, then the Lin family will not be able to salvage the situation. The Shintu family clan had invited so many family clans as witness to force the Lin family, and the Lin family's elders were happy to see such a situation. Lin Xintong was silent. Immediately, the gathering turned silent as everyone's eyes were still on Lin Xintong. Lin Xintong's attitude and decision was of utmost importance. With the atmosphere turning heavy, people knew that there was immense stress for Lin Xintong at this moment. A young girl, even with extraordinary courage, might not be able to handle the stress. At this moment, no one noticed that on a chair in a corner, a masked Yun was staring at the relic. His eyes were shining. The great empress relic seems to. When Shintu Nantian opened the relic box, Yun had opened his energy vision. The purple crystal's energy vision could see through all illusions and seeing the essence of all things. Even in the sword and saber tomb, Yun could use the purple crystal's energy vision to see the energy marks left behind by its owner despite the tens of millions of years that had passed. This was an ability that even great emperor-ranked Desolate Heaven Masters lacked. However, when Yun was using his energy vision to examine the great empress relic, he found something odd. In the relic, there was a tiny amount of black gas. This black gas was hidden underneath the red snake. It was like an even thinner and smaller black venomous snake was slowly swimming around. However, once the energy vision was disengaged, the black snake could not be seen. It was like a ghost that made his heart jump. For some unknown reason, Yun felt an extremely sense of foreboding seeing this black snake. This was a feeling Yun never had before. There might be a problem with this relic. Upon realizing this possibility, Yun's expression turned heavy. And at this moment, the atmosphere in the square was still heavy. Lin Xintong remained silent while everyone looked at her. The scene had turned cold. Young Master Shintu, let old me look at the relic first. At this moment, the Lin family's matriarch suddenly spoke. Actually, she had spoken to ease the situation as it was too awkward. Also, she could examine the relic to see if there was a problem. Chapter 410, The Final Voice. Of course, matriarch, please have a look. Shintu Nantian was all smiles as he handed the great empress relic over to the servant girl beside the matriarch. The matriarch held the relic with her thumb and index finger. Under the sunlight, this ring-shaped relic turned crystal clear. It was like it was a ring constructed from immortal jade. The snake on the relic's surface even gave off a pervasive spiritual feeling. Good relic! A Lin family elder could not help but praise it. The matriarch opened her heaven's eye and sank her mental energies into it before slightly nodding. She was very satisfied with it. With her perception, she could feel the hot energy flowing within the relic. It was extremely pure yang energy. Seeing the matriarch's expression, Yun's heart sank. He had been hoping that the matriarch would discover something odd with the relic, but in the end he was disappointed. It was needless to say how good the matriarch's knowledge of the Desolate Heaven technique was. However, that was only limited to the understanding of the Tianyuan world's Desolate Heaven technique heritage. As for ancient Desolate Heaven techniques, the matriarch did not know much. The reason there was a problem with the relic was likely not because the Shintu family clan had poisoned it, but was likely that the ancient Desolate Heaven technique itself possessed extreme danger. If the Shintu family clan had poisoned it, the matriarch would naturally have been able to sniff it out. However, with regards to the ancient Desolate Heaven technique, it was a domain that the matriarch had never been exposed to. Hence, she could not see the defect in the relic.
This made Yi Yun's expression turn ugly.
If the matriarch had seen through it, everything would have been easier, but now, she had acknowledged that the relic was fine.
Great!
A kind smile appeared on the matriarch's face. The Shintu family clan has really worked hard for this.
Seeing this relic, the matriarch's attitude towards Shintu Nantian turned kinder.
It was like an attitude of an elder to a member of the younger generation.
This attitude made Shintu Nantian very excited. This is necessary of us.
With the two families entering an alliance, we should trust each other and seek the future together.
As Shintu Nantian said this, his eyes landed on Lin Shintong. What say you, Shintong?
Feeling that his marriage with Lin Shintong was 90% in the bag, Shintu Nantian addressed Lin Shintong in a more cordial manner. And this addressment made Lin Shintong frown slightly. She did not respond, which resulted in the matriarch being dissatisfied with her attitude, let alone those elders who had supported the Shintu family clan, like Lin Shintong's grandaunt. After all, the great empress relic that could cure Lin Shintong of her naturally terminated meridians was right in front of them.
This opportunity was not to be missed.
Previously, the matriarch had taken Lin Shintong's personal wishes into account and wanted to drag out the matter, hoping to see if there would be an opportunity for change. However, with Shintu Nanshan's introduction of the 12 relics, he had sealed their road to back down. If they did not trial the relic today, then there would be no chance in the future. It was equivalent to rejecting the Shintu family clan. The matriarch did not dare to take that risk. After all, to cure Lin Shintong of her naturally terminated meridians after missing such an opportunity would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. A desolate bone relic of such a grade, and even made from an ancient recipe, was not something that the Lin family could refine.
Shintong. The matriarch's voice turned a little harsh.
And at this moment, Shintu Nantian added on, Miss Shintong, it is not that I am pressing you. Previously, I said that when my Shintu family clan refined this great empress relic, we especially used everlasting purple gold to build the box containing the relic to prevent the loss of its medicinal properties. This was why there were a total of 7 seals on the relic box.
These 7 seals are no trifling matter.
Even so, the great empress relic can only be stored inside the everlasting purple gold relic box for a year.
Now, I have opened the relic box.
As such, this relic can only be kept for less than an hour.
Its medicinal properties are gradually being depleted. The more time passes, the lower its effect.
By saying this, Shintu Nanshan's words were like the final straw that broke the camel's back. The elders of the upper echelon of the Lin family who were still hesitating immediately leaned towards the Shintu family clan. Even Su Jiet could only let out a long sigh as he helplessly shook his head. He used his Yuan Qi to speak to Lin Shintong. Shintong, your master is useless. I could not find a divine medicine to join up your terminated meridians. Even if you give your master another 500 years, I do not have any confidence. Now that the Shintu family clan has found it, it is probably fate. Sometimes, one has to pay the price for certain things. Master, Lin Shintong slightly turned her head over to look at Su Jie.
There seem to be 1,000 words in her watery eyes, you think so too?
Su Jie sighed. Warriors practice martial arts to compete with the heavens, but, looking at the past 100 million years of the Tian Yuan world, how many of them have the right to say that they have defeated the heavens? Competing with the heavens is not as simple as just shouting out some brave words. One has to first experience long years of humiliation and stress to slowly sharpen oneself, slowly pushing oneself to an extreme, eventually climbing up to the peak of martial arts.
Only then can a person really say that humans can defeat the heavens.
A sharp sword is formed from endless sharpening.
No one can defeat the heavens the moment they were born.
Su Jie's tone was sincere, and it contained the insight he had gained from his 30,000 years of experience.
The currently slick and unreliable Su Jie's talent in martial arts and the desolate heaven technique far exceeded that of his peers when he was young. He too had been a high-spirited and arrogant proud son of heaven once.
Slowly, through his experiences in martial arts and life, Su Jia had slowly changed into a character in the game of life. Lin Xintong took a deep breath of air as she smiled wryly. 2 years ago, when she first returned to her family, she had heard of the Shintu family clan trying to form a marriage alliance with the Lin family by having her marry Shintu Nantian. Her first reaction was that it was preposterous. Lin Xintong believed that, with the relationship between the Lin family and the Shintu family clan, and her own understanding of Shintu Nantian, this was something that was impossible. And back then, there were several elders in the Lin family who stood by Lin Xintong's side. Now, after 2 years, there was no one standing on her side anymore. Even the matriarch who had loved her so much, and Su Jia who had treated her as his own daughter, had begun to support the marriage. However, the matriarch and Su Jia had not bowed down to the Shintu family clan, but they had succumbed to fate. They yielded to the powers of nature. When warriors succumbed to their enemy, it was shameful. When warriors succumbed to the heavens, it was very normal. As Su Jie said, looking back at the Tian Yuan world's past 100 million years, how many would dare say that they had defeated the heavens? Lin Xintong shook her head deep down before she stood up. She knew that there was no one who supported her at this moment. As she was about to open her mouth and say something, a faint voice sounded out from the corner of the venue. This sound was familiar to her, yet different from her memory. Wait! I have something to say. Lin Xintong was shocked as she turned her head over. She saw that 100 feet away, a youth dressed in green had stood up from his seat. He was wearing a cold-looking silver mask. There were 2 grim-looking lines in the color of blood where the eyes should be. However, at this moment, Lin Xintong could feel infinite warmth from the grim and cold mask. Aware of Lin Xintong's gaze, Yun nodded solemnly. This tiny action was enough for Lin Xintong to understand that Yun wanted to say something to support her. This made Lin Xintong slightly dazed. At the final moment, when she was the most helpless, with no one supporting her, including Su Jia and the matriarch, this youth stood up and spoke with a different voice. Even if Lin Xintong knew that this youth could not do anything, nor could he change anything, but him standing up and sounding out was enough for Lin Xintong. This voice seemed to be a tiny candlelight in a cold, dark winter night. It could not provide much warmth or light, nor could it bring the spring or dawn, but it brought hope. Lin Xintong looked at Yun and, piercing through the mask, saw Yun's eyes. She could see her own reflection in his dark pupils. She remembered what Yun had said to her on the night of the victory party. She had never known that Yun swore to find the method to join up her terminated meridians that night in the desolate human valley 2 years ago. Even though the chances of him succeeding were extremely slim, he had still worked hard for it. And at this moment, in front of the Shintu family clan and the Lin family's pressure, he had sounded out with a different voice with his tiny capacity. This touched Lin Xintong. Thank you, but there is no need. Lin Xintong shook her head and transmitted her voice to Yun. She knew that under these circumstances, Yun could not change a thing. Furthermore, if he said anything inappropriate, he would suffer the wrath of others. After all, with a matter that was decided by the 2 large family clans, against the pressure from all the elders present, anything Yun said could anger some people. Without mincing words, with his status, he did not even have the right to make a sound. This was especially so with Shintu Nantian, who had the intent to kill Yun. If the Lin family decided to cooperate with the Shintu family clan, then Shintu Nantian would have considerable influence in the Lin family, so when that came to be, Yun would be in extreme danger. Oh! With someone suddenly interrupting, Shintu Nantian's expression sank as he turned to look towards the source of the voice. Upon seeing Yun, Shintu Nantian's blood immediately boiled. It was that kid. He still remembered Yun's mask clearly. Although his failure at the Desolate Heaven Technique Tea session had nothing to do with Yun, Shintu Nantian had already connected his failure with that mask. Once he saw Yun, he remembered his failure. The words he had said before failing ended up smacking him right back in his face.
It was the greatest disgrace of his life. Author's note: thank you for everyone's concern. Actually, it's not tough for me to write. It's just that due to chronic stress, I easily suffer from insomnia. And once I suffer from insomnia, my mental facilities will be lacking the next day. Yesterday, I had already written about 2,000 plus words before sleeping, but I was unsatisfied with it, so I didn't post it. I slept in the day again today, but the sleep quality was much better, so I rewrote a lot of what I wrote. I'm also more satisfied with what I wrote. I will try to adjust. Chapter 4:11, The Conflict During the Medicine Trial. With Iyun standing up, the entire venue turned oddly quiet. Everyone looked at Iyun with a startled look. They were dumbfounded. In this situation, if anyone was to stand up to say something, it would have been Su Jie or the Lin family's matriarch, or someone from the upper echelons of the Shintu family clan. What was the meaning behind Iyun standing up? With his status, what sort of qualifications did he have to speak? You? Shintu Nantian looked at Iyun and sneered, "What's your name? Who are you in the Lin family? How old are you? What's your cultivation level? Do you know what the situation is? Do you know what the status of all these elders and seniors are? With so many seniors not speaking, is it even your turn to speak?" Although Shintu Nantian wished he could kill Iyun, he had to maintain his gentlemanly image in front of the upper echelons of the Lin family and other large family clans. He could not scold without culture. However, even so, his words were full of sarcasm and disdain. His three questions were all pointing at Iyun's weakness. Firstly, he was a junior. Secondly, he was lacking in strength. Thirdly, he was an outsider and had no relations with the Lin family. To suddenly speak out at this moment showed how lacking in etiquette he was. "I am Yun Yentian, the Lin family's guest elder, Su Jie's disciple. I'm 15 years old, cultivation at the early stages of the Yuan Foundation realm." No one expected that against Shintu Nantian's obvious sarcasm, Iyun managed to answer his questions calmly, as if he could not tell the sarcasm in the words. This behavior no doubt enraged Shintu Nantian. Probably everyone from the Shintu family clan was enraged, even the Lin family were puzzled over Iyun's behavior. Elder Su, the Lin family's matriarch, looked towards Su Jie and was confused. She had a good impression of Iyun. Her impression of this youth was that he knew when to advance and retreat, and had a sense of etiquette. She did not understand why Iyun would suddenly stand up. Su Jie was equally confused. This cheap disciple of his had never not let him worry. Enough! At this moment, on the Shintu family clan side, an old voice erupted. There was a strong energy shockwave contained within this voice, causing many people's ears to tremble. "Pa!" An angry-looking thousand-hand granny smashed downwards on where she was sitting and the seat's arm was shattered into wood pulp. The thousand-hand granny bent her body and slowly stood up. With her cloudy eyes, she stared angrily at Iyun, like an old vulture eyeing a prey. During the Shintu family clan's negotiations with the Lin family, she had been angered greatly and was already fed up. Especially half a month ago, her most beloved grandson, Shintu Nantian, had suffered a backlash on his soul. Even after using soul-nurturing medicine that cost a fortune, they had not managed to completely heal his soul. He was still nursing his health and his cultivation speed was significantly affected. She had blamed this on the Lin family. If not for the Lin family doubting their Shintu family clan's desolate heaven technique heritage, and doubted Shintu Nantian, would they have needed to hold the desolate heaven technique tea session? Would they have needed to let Shintu Nantian demonstrate such dangerous techniques at the tea session? And this kid who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth had not only messed up the tea session, he had now messed up such an important moment. Where did this little bastard come from? Does he even know his manners? If this were the Shintu family clan, to be such an unbecoming junior, for a little bastard that doesn't know what weight he has to jump out and make a fuss, I would have killed you with a slap. The thousand-hand granny said with a sullen face.
Her words not only scolded Iyun, she had also secretly highlighted how the Lin family's family rules were too lax. Only then could a little bastard who showed no respect for his elders jump around at such an occasion. She could not specifically scold the upper echelons of the Lin family, but could only use this subtle manner to release her anger. Upon hearing the thousand-hand granny's words, the Lin family's matriarch's face also sank slightly.
Thousand-hand granny, what is the meaning of this?
In such a situation, the matriarch had to speak.
Matriarch Lin. The thousand-hand granny no longer sounded polite with her tone. Don't blame that this old granny's words sound ugly. This marriage alliance was indeed proposed by my Shinto family clan. However, wouldn't this benefit the Lin family more?
Even when Lin Shinto marries into our Shinto family clan, she is still a part of the Lin family. In the future, she will be your Lin family's peerless great empress.
Nantian will only benefit slightly from this.
And because of this, my Shinto family clan has to pay the great price of refining that great empress relic. Although my Shinto family clan had suffered in the beast horde a decade ago, we are not reliant on your Lin family's protection.
Even if my Shinto family clan might not be able to expand in the next few decades, we are still able to secure our family's heritage.
Against the thousand-hand granny's hot and cold pressure, Matriarch Lin remained silent. The thousand-hand granny would also not completely offend Matriarch Lin, so she turned to Iyun once again. Little bastard, if not for Matriarch Lin, I would have killed you already. As the thousand-hand granny spoke, an aura came pressing down on Iyun. This was not the pressure from that of her cultivation level, it was just the aura of superiority she had obtained naturally from a long period of holding a high position.
Iyun pinched his nose.
As a petty person, he naturally disliked people pointing at him and scolding him. With a hand, he casually straightened his cuffs and whispered, I thought that a person would be more stable in their bearing as they became older.
As Iyun said these words, everyone became stunned. This included Su Jia and Matriarch Lin.
They also did not know how to react.
What was he saying? Although he did not curse, his tone and insinuations were no doubt more aggravating than cursing. Besides, what Iyun had said wasn't false. Although Iyun was indeed disrespectful of his elders to speak at a situation like this, it was indeed unbecoming of the thousand-hand granny's status to jump up and curse at Iyun because of his words. The thousand-hand granny's eyes turned red immediately. It was as if all her blood had surged to her face. The color of blood slowly swallowed one wrinkle at a time. She looked at Iyun with alarm and anger. Her expression was that of an old cat whose tail had been suddenly ripped off by someone. Little bastard, you are courting death. The thousand-hand granny wanted to make a move and kill Iyun, but at this moment, Su Jia and Lin Shintom stood up at the same time. With a flash, Su Jia had appeared in front of Iyun. As for the Lin family's matriarch, she had locked on to Iyun. If the thousand-hand granny were to make a move, Matriarch Lin had the means to pull Iyun back. Yantian, what are you doing?
As Su Jia protected Iyun, he spoke as if he was on the brink of collapse. He really felt speechless. What was Iyun thinking to actually start reprimanding the thousand-hand granny in front of so many people? Not doing anything, it's just that, I think the great empress relic taken out by the Shinto family clan is problematic. Iyun's words were resolute and seemed very confident. Instantly, the entire scene quietened down. Be it the Lin family's elders or the upper echelons of the Shinto family clan, all of them were dumbstruck. However, the elders of the Shinto family clan only froze for a blink of an eye. Following that, they all began looking angrily at Iyun. What nonsense is this junior spouting? How dare he slander the great cost and efforts our Shinto family clan had put in to refine the great empress relic? If the Lin family does not explain itself, I will definitely not take this going down. The Shinto family clan elders already found Iyun unbearable. At this moment, the thousand-hand granny's face was sullen. Her ferocious and muddy eyes contained murderous intent that seemed like it was going to shoot through Iyun. She said staccato words, I want the Lin family to hand this little bastard over to me for disposal.
If not, you can forget about eating this great Empress relic.
The thousand-hand granny's rage had reached an extreme. She began to use the great Empress relic to threaten the Lin family. If they did not hand Yun over, the great Empress relic would no longer be given to Lin Xintong.
The expressions of many of the Lin family elders turned upon hearing this.
The fate of Lin Xintong's naturally terminated meridians and their Lin family being able to produce a peerless great empress that could rule the Tian Yuan world relied on this great empress relic. Although Yun's value to the Lin family was not small, compared to Lin Xintong, he was almost negligible.
They did not know why Yun was going crazy. At this moment, although many of the Lin family elders wanted to protect Yun, they could not support his manner of courting death.
Why of all people did you have to antagonize that old hag? The thousand-hand granny had always been ruthless. Especially when she grew older, she became even more ruthless. Whoever offended her would live a life worse than death once they fell into her hands.
There's a problem? What problem is there? Yun's words pricked the matriarch's sensitive nerves.
She had reluctantly consented to the marriage only because of Lin Xintong's lifespan. If the great empress relic was problematic, it would definitely be something that would let the matriarch rage.
What problem can there be, matriarch? Don't listen to this kid's nonsense. At this moment, Lin Xintong's grandaunt stood up.
She had been pissed with Yun for a long time. The Shintu family clan has incurred a great price just to refine the great empress relic.
Would they have poisoned it and waste this treasured medicine and end up offending the Lin family just to kill Xintong? What a joke! What good would there be for them?
Besides, matriarch, you have personally inspected the great empress relic.
With your eyes, could you be inferior to that kid? The way I see it, just hand the kid over to the Shintu family clan since he isn't one of our Lin family.
Lin Xintong's grandaunt sneered as she looked towards Yun.
Don't blame others when you court death yourself.
The words Lin Xintong's grandaunt said was indeed a view all the Lin family elders held.
Based on what did Yun dare say that the great empress relic was problematic? However, the matriarch did not dismiss Yun immediately.
Due to Yun's performance at the Desolate Heaven Technique tea session, she felt that Yun wasn't a person who did not have any sense of decorum.
The matriarch's eyes flashed. Little friend Yun, tell me. Why do you think that the great empress relic is problematic?
After she asked this, she used her Yuan Qi to transmit privately to Yun, little friend Yun, you must weigh your words. If you can't give a proper response, I may be able to protect your life, but I will endure too much pressure and criticism.
Chapter 412, I can prove it. With the thousand-hand granny move of making it known that she wanted to kill Yun, to the point of not giving the great empress relic to Lin Xintong just to force the Lin family to pass him over, the matriarch's Yuan Qi voice transmission made Yun feel warm and fuzzy. Thank you, matriarch.
This junior is aware of the stakes.
Yun knew it was no longer the time for him to hide. Originally, Yun did not want people to know about any of his abilities, but now, he had to stand out.
He could not use the help of Su Jie, for even if Su Jie believed him and said that the great empress relic was problematic, he too could not say what the problem was.
Hence, everything depended on Yun himself. Taking a deep breath, Yun walked to the center of the square.
He could feel Lin Xintong looking at him from nearby. Within her gaze was worry and hope. She knew that Yun seldom did things he had little confidence in. Since Yun had already spoken out, he might have a way. He stood about 10 feet away from Shintu Nantian, since the great empress relic was already in the hands of Shintu Nantian. Shintu Nantian held the great empress relic as he stared at Yun, his eyes cold and filled with murderous intent. Kid, it is best for you that you do not fall into my hands in the future, or else you will live a life worse than death.
Shintu Nantian's Yuan Qi transmission rang in Yun's ear.
He did not care about Yun, though Yun's Desolate Heaven Technique talent was good, strength was what mattered in a warrior's world. When it came to strength, who in the younger generation of the Lin family could compete with Shintu Nantian?
Little bastard, speak.
If you do not speak well, it might be your last words in this world.
The thousand-hand granny looked ferociously at Yi Yun.
All the elders in the Shintu family clan were on Yi Yun.
Their expressions were that of disdain and mockery.
Yi Yun took a deep breath and his voice rang in the entire venue. Since I was young, I have had a natural keen sense of energy. My eyes are special and can see through the essence of energy.
Oh? People were surprised. Seeing through the essence of energy?
In fact, in this world, there were people with mutated bodies. Although this was rare, but when considering the populations numbered in the trillions, it was still easy to find a lot of people with mutated bodies. For example, Lin Shinton's natural meridians was a kind of special body. A pure yang body was naturally also one. There was also no lack of people who had mutated eyes.
Some people had dark yin eyes, which allowed them to see ghosts and spirits.
Some people had heretic eyes, which allowed them to charm others with their gaze, making them enter an illusion and suffer mental damage. However, they had never heard of mutated eyes that allowed one to see through the essence of energy. There was the legendary double eyes and repeated eyes that were related.
Double eyes was having two pupils in one eyes.
And repeated eyes was having a smaller pupil within the bigger pupil. These two types of mutated eyes could see through illusions and fabrications. They could see the nature of things, so these people tended to have high perceptivity, resulting in outstanding talent.
It was a very special mutation. Could this kid have such eyes? People looked at each other.
However, even people like Lin Shinton's grandaunt, who strongly disliked Yi Yun, somewhat believed in his words. As Yi Yun had previously used the simple sealing technique, the mystic crystal hand, at the recent Desolate Heaven Technique Tea session to easily crack Song Ziyua's 5-elemental bone array. Actually, this was very difficult to explain, but if Yi Yun had eyes that allowed him to see through the essence of energy, it would be very easy for him to do so.
This was because any trap that Song Ziyue had set in the Desolate Bones would have been seen through by Yi Yun at a glance, hence, cracking it would be very easy. To see through the essence of energy, this is pretty much the ability that Desolate Heaven Masters wish for.
A Desolate Heaven Master Elder from the Lin family said with envy and surprise.
Who would have thought that a youth like Yi Yun would have such an ability? Upon hearing Yi Yun's words, Shintu Nanshan's flashed in an imperceptible manner.
As he looked at Yi Yun, his gaze revealed that he only wished that he could kill Yi Yun.
Granny, this kid's ability might be real.
Shintu Nantian never expected that an unimportant character in the Lin family would go against him at every turn. And every time he appeared, he would either smack him in the face or crush his Achilles heel. The kid's strength was clearly nothing, but Shintu Nantian felt as if he was powerless against him. The old face of the thousand-hand granny twitched a bit before she said, "So what if he has such mutated eyes?"
He has only detected that something is amiss, not what.
This great Empress relic was refined by using an ancient Desolate Heaven technique that several grand elders in our Shintu family clan, a few Desolate Heaven technique experts from our allies, and I collectively used.
This great Empress relic may have a flaw, but this flaw is something that even our allied family clans Quasi-Emperor and Desolate Heaven Masters, who jointly refined this relic, do not know. The Lin family matriarch's cultivation level may be formidable, but she too could not figure it out.
I do not believe that this kid can prove anything.
I am guessing that he is just grasping at shadows and that there is nothing to be feared.
With the thousand-hand granny saying this, Shintu Nantian felt slightly at ease.
Indeed, so what if Yi Yun was suspicious? Did he have any proof?
Upon thinking of this, Shintu Nantian sneered and said to Yi Yun, "Are you done speaking?
This is your explanation?"
Our Shintu family clans sacrificed the lives of many experts just to obtain the great Empress ancient recipe, and then we gathered experts from afar and spent countless amounts of treasures, including a primordial true spirit's life essence bone, to finally refine this great Empress relic.
However, with just a sentence, you, a teenage kid, are completely negating all we have done? Who do you think you are?
Shintu Nantian said this disdainfully, and on the Shintu family clan's side, those desolate heaven masters who had worked hard for this great empress relic were even more outraged. So what if Yi Yun had mutated eyes? Could a child at the Yuan Foundation realm with mutated eyes see a flaw in a treasure like the great empress relic? I can testify that this great empress relic has no problems. A white-robed elder with long eyebrows stood up. I am the Song family's guest elder. I have no grudge with the Lin family, so whatever I say should be considered objective. My desolate heaven technique may not be outstanding, but I believe my eyes are not that bad. I was involved in the entire process of the great empress relic refinement and not once discovered any problems with the relic. This long-browed elder was actually one of the people involved in refining the great empress relic. So by standing up to speak for the Shintu family clan, his words were substantial. Few people present actually believed Yi Yun, and with the elder's testimony, even fewer did so now. Under this situation, what right did a junior have to speak? If it was because of Yi Yun's words that a matter, which involved the two families' future and had been intensely discussed by the two families, was overthrown, then it would be too much of a joke. This kid is deliberately being disruptive and speaking nonsense. He said he has mutated eyes that can see through to the essence of energy. Then it is something that only he can see. Then who can prove whatever he says? Elders from the Shintu family clan began to criticize. The Lin family's matriarch's expression turned heavy. Little friend Yun, do you have anything else to say? Yi Yun nodded. What if I say? I have the ability to prove it? Oh. Upon hearing Yi Yun's words, people were stunned. Proving it? I need a desolate beast to test the medicine. Yi Yun said as he looked towards the matriarch. The Lin family did imprison desolate beasts. These desolate beasts had been causing chaos in the Tian Yuan world and had later been caught by warriors. They were not killed and were instead used for training purposes by letting juniors fight with them to hone their battle skills. Ha ha ha. At this moment, Shintu Nantian suddenly erupted in laughter. That is your proof. You want to feed a desolate beast the priceless great empress relic? Just to see if it is poisonous? He thought Yi Yun had some method to prove it. However, this method was extremely stupid. Just because of your word, our Shintu family clan, who have spent countless amounts of effort to refine this desolate bone relic, is to feed it to a desolate beast? That is ridiculous. Against Shintu Nantian's mockery, Yi Yun smiled. Of course not. I still need someone to help me. Young Master Nantian, thousand-hand granny, in order to be fair, can I use your powers to help me? Yi Yun smiled gently. The corners of his lips curved up and gave a malevolent feeling. Normally, when he expressed such a smile, someone would usually be in for some bad luck. Chapter 413, I agree. As no one could see Yi Yun smile, no one knew what he was thinking. Shintu Nantian narrowed his eyes. He never expected that Yi Yun would need the thousand-hand grannies and his help in probing the great empress relic. What was this kid scheming? Granny, what do you think is the underlying meaning is? Shintu Nantian sent a Yuan Qi transmission to the thousand-hand granny. The thousand-hand granny sneered and transmitted back, this little bastard is just deliberately courting death. I don't believe that a Yuan Foundation realm junior like him is able to do anything when even an Empyrean-level desolate heaven master can't resolve or even detect the relic's flaw. Also, we will not let this kid destroy the relic. This will make it even more difficult to discover the relic's flaw. The thousand-hand granny stood up while saying this. She walked to the middle of the square. She was a head shorter than Yi Yun, but her aura suppressed the entire venue. Little bastard, I want to see what game you want to play. Oh. Are you agreeing to it? Yi Yun retorted. What a joke. Why would I not agree? However, do you think that a junior like you can slander my Shintu family clan's honor? Since you are maligning my Shintu family clan today, you will need to pay the price. If I were to let you off, Wouldn't my Shinto family clan be the laughingstock of the world?
I will give you an hour.
If you cannot prove that the Great Empress relic is problematic, then you will need to hand your life over to me for my disposal. The thousand-hand granny said with a grin. She could tell that the Lin family's matriarch intended to protect Yi Yun. She was not serious when she had previously threatened not to heal Lin Shinton's natural lean meridians and killing Yi Yun.
Immediately, everyone looked at Yi Yun.
This had suddenly become a bet with his life at stake. Once Yi Yun agreed to it, the matriarch could no longer protect him. If Yi Yun were to lose, who knew what sort of inhumane torture he would suffer before his death?
Yi Yun.
Lin Shinton's concerned voice rang in Yi Yun's ear. She had never expected things to develop to such a point. Yi Yun had stood up for her, but now, even Yi Yun's life was at stake as well. Lin Shinton had wished to see Yi Yun make an attempt. Any tiny bit of hope was, after all, good. However, once lives were at stake, it was no longer the same. It was too difficult for Yi Yun to prove that a desolate bone relic of this grade was problematic. She was afraid that he did not have much confidence.
Don't take the risk. This has nothing to do with you.
Lin Shinton wanted Yi Yun to rein in the horse at the edge of the precipice. Yi Yun's expression had slightly turned serious. He had to carefully consider it with his life on the line. Seeing that Yi Yun was afraid, Shinto Nantian was naturally pleased.
Granny, that was great.
Let's see how this naive kid can jump up and down with his life at stake.
Humph. He just has a vague feeling.
It's impossible for him to find the flaw. If he dares agree to it, it will be something that I greatly welcome.
The atmosphere in the square froze. Yi Yun stood silently in the middle.
No one could tell what his expression was under that cold, silver mask.
Irrevocably committed? Why did you act as such knowing that this would be the outcome?
Since you are now in the limelight, it is time to pay the price.
The Shinto family clan's elders all felt their frustration vent. This ignorant junior really made their blood boil. Yun.
Shinto Nantian looked mockingly at Yi Yun. If you kneel down and kowtow to us to confess your wrongdoings, my Shinto family clan will not pursue this matter.
Shinto Nantian was feeling very comfortable at this moment.
He had been suppressing the pangs of fire for the past few days. Yi Yun looked back at Shinto Nantian and sneered. How could he not have confidence in the purple crystal? However, as it concerned his life, even if he was 90% confident, he would need to give it even greater thought.
If I can prove the problem with the relic?
If I were to fail, I will pay the price of my life.
Then if I were to succeed, what price will you pay? How about your life?
Yi Yun took a step forward and looked straight back at Shinto Nantian. Shinto Nantian's heart sank and he subconsciously took a step back. Yi Yun was willing to bet lives with him. He did not have the courage to bet his life with Yi Yun. His mouth twitched as he was temporarily stumped. He was suppressed by Yi Yun's stance momentarily. However, Shinto Nantian calmed down quickly and retorted, Do you think an ant-like figure like you can bet lives with me?
Who do you think you are?
That idiot. Does he think his life is equivalent to young Master Nantian's? That is an insult to young Master Nantian.
A Shinto family clan elder echoed. Ha ha ha. Yi Yun roared with laughter. If you were not guilty conscious, why does it matter if you bet your life? Yi Yun could only mock Shinto Nantian. He knew that it was impossible to get rid of Shinto Nantian with a bet. Since you are afraid to die, that is fine.
I'll change the stakes. If I win, I want the Shinto family clan to hand the ancient desolate heaven technique heritage and the Great Empress recipe over to me. You will then have to tell me where in the mystic realm the Great Empress recipe and the ancient desolate heaven technique heritage was found, as well as everything you had encountered while exploring the mystic realm.
Yi Yun finally mentioned his real goal. This is what he really wanted to know. Yi Yun, you
Upon hearing Yi Yun's proposed bet, Lin Xintong's heart thumped.
Her beautiful eyes looked at Yi Yun with complexity.
She knew that Yi Yun was doing this for her. She did not know what problems there were in the great Empress relic that the Shintu family clan refined. However, she had a faint feeling that this relic was likely effective on her, or the Shintu family clan would not have taken it out for her to trial it. If the Lin family went personally to explore the area of the mystic realm where the Shintu family clan had gone, the outcomes of them obtaining the ancient recipe and finding the way to really heal her naturally terminated meridians would be completely different.
Kid, you are dreaming.
The thousand-hand granny's old face twitched. Yi Yun was really demanding a lot to actually know the location of the mystic realm and the experience gained from risking the lives of many Shintu family clan experts. Even if she did not believe that Yi Yun could prove the flaw in the great Empress relic, she could not agree to it.
And at this moment, the Lin family's matriarch stood up.
Her amiable smile had long disappeared, and her gaze was now fierce.
Thousand-hand granny.
I am not doubting the Shintu family clan, however. If the great Empress relic really has a problem, then the intentions of the Shintu family clan letting Shintong eat this relic is questionable.
Your Shintu family clan would not let little friend Yun easily off after he has slandered you.
If my Lin family can prove that someone has malicious thoughts against us, then we would not let it go so easily.
Thousand-hand granny.
If there is really such an outcome, my Lin family expects an answer from the Shintu family clan. Or else, my Lin family isn't a place where you can come and go as you please. By saying this, the matriarch words already had a threatening tone. The Lin family was a top family clan in the Tian Yuan world.
As the head of the Lin family's internal affairs, the matriarch was not some nice old lady.
She had her strong side. Seeing the matriarch put her foot down, the thousand-hand granny's heart sank. There was no doubt that if the great Empress relic was proved to be problematic, the Lin family was willing to lose all decorum. If the Lin family really were to fight against the Shintu family clan, both sides would end up with grave losses. Even if the Lin family were to win, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. Another large family clan might take advantage of the situation and benefit from the tussle. As for whether they will end up at war, the thousand-hand granny did not know.
However, if their group did not give a reasonable answer, Matriarch Lin would not let them leave easily.
Upon thinking this, the thousand-hand granny knew that she had to agree to Yi Yun's huge bet. If not, Matriarch Lin would be the first to disagree. However, so what if she agreed? Could a kid like him really think he would succeed? It is ironic for Matriarch Lin to suspect my Shintu family clan. My Shintu family clan had incurred a great price just to refine the great Empress relic, but we only ended up being suspected. The thousand-hand granny shook her head and looked at the Lin family with disappointment.
The allies of the Shintu family clan felt emphatic hearing this.
They felt the Matriarch Lin's words were chilling.
Since Matriarch Lin has said this old man can't sit idly.
I will also help to prove this so-called flaw in the great Empress relic.
The Song family's long-browed top guest elder, who had previously stood up for the Shintu family clan, walked to the middle of the square. Yi Yun nodded as if indifferent about it.
It was irrelevant having one more helping hand. Words are useless.
Let's sign a soul contract.
Yi Yun said. He knew that there were soul contracts that were binding amongst warriors. As long as both sides were willing to sign it, it would have to be fulfilled or they would suffer punishment. With the Lin family's heritage, it would not be difficult to produce a soul contract that could bind the thousand-hand granny.
The thousand-hand granny's face twitched slightly and she looked coldly at Yi Yun. Just to my liking. Take the contract out.
However, a cheap life of a little bastard like you is not worthy of the information of the mystic realm. I want to add on a point. That is, if the great Empress relic is proven to be alright, the Lin family has no reason to delay this marriage. I have had enough from this dragging on for so long. When the thousand-hand granny said this, she looked at Lin Xintong. For this marriage alliance, the most important factor was Lin Xintong's attitude towards it. If Lin Xintong was adamant against it, they were helpless as the Lin family would not dare to force Lin Xintong. Lin Xintong frowned slightly. The way that things had developed had long gone out of control. The thousand-hand granny sneered and waited for Lin Xintong to make a decision. She disliked Lin Xintong, who was a woman who did not know what was good for her. Lin Xintong stood up and gently closed her eyes as her long eyelashes trembled slightly.
After about the time it took 10 breaths, Lin Xintong opened her eyes and gave Yi Yun a deep glance.
Through Yi Yun's mask, their eyes met. Yi Yun did not speak a word nor did he pass any message with his eyes. He respected Lin Xintong's choice as it was a matter regarding her own marital affairs.
I agree. The two clear words resounded in the venue.
Yi Yun had stood up because of her and had even risked his life. How could her betting her own dignity and innocence compare to that? Since Yi Yun believed in himself, Lin Xintong also chose to believe in Yi Yun.
Chapter 414, Great Empress Heart Sutra.
An administrator of the Lin family brought the soul contract forth. It was an ancient scroll, made of a primordial species or a primordial true spirit's hide. The soul contract was engraved with complicated runes that specified the contract. Surrounded by all the runes, there was a hideous ghost head image. Upon seeing the soul contract, the thousand-hand granny sneered as she cleanly cut her finger with a dagger, dropping her blood onto the contract's ghost head. After the ghost head came into contact with the thousand-hand granny's blood, it suddenly came to life and flew out of the contract reel, straight into the thousand-hand granny's heart. This ghost head was a curse. Whoever signed the soul contract and did not have the power to counteract the soul's curse would have their hearts eaten by the ghost head and die if they were to breach the contract. Yi Yun also dripped his blood onto the soul contract. When the ghost head entered his body, Yi Yun felt his body suddenly turn cold. It was as if his soul had separated from his body for a split second. At this moment, the thousand-hand granny looked at Lin Xintong. Without any hesitation, Lin Xintong gently stroked her nail across her index finger, and with a flick of her slender fingers, a drop of blood flew a distance of 60 to 70 feet, straight onto the soul contract. Seeing Lin Xintong's blood form a runic seal on the soul contract, a contented smile appeared on Shintu Nanshan's face.
Miss Xintong's actions sure are cool.
Shintu Nantian flapped his fan as he looked at Lin Xintong. Seeing Lin Xintong's graceful body line, an imperceptible look of greed flashed in Shintu Nanshan's eyes. After today, this woman of the highest grade would be his. Shintu Nantian was already looking forward to the pleasures that a man and woman would enjoy together, but this was not the most important thing. The more important thing was that the Shintu family clan had not only obtained the Great Empress ancient recipe in the ancient mystic realm, they had also found a remnant copy of a cultivation technique left behind by the peerless Great Empress of old, Great Empress Heart Sutra. This Great Empress Heart Sutra was a technique for cultivation intercourse, and it greatly benefited the man. However, the cultivation technique required the woman to have the purest body. In ancient times, only the peerless Great Empress would be a candidate. And now, there was only Lin Xintong. After receiving Lin Xintong's primordial body, and having cultivation intercourse with Lin Xintong, Shintu Nantian himself could begin cultivating the Great Empress Heart Sutra. This was a huge opportunity for Shintu Nantian. This is also why Shintu Nantian was trying to push for the marriage with the Lin family through all means. It is finally signed. Shintu Nantian looked at the soul contract scroll. The mark left behind by Lin Xintong made him extremely excited. After today, Lin Xintong is mine. No matter how pure you are, with you not showing signs of flirtation to anyone, wouldn't you end up ripe for my picking in the future? Just thinking of this made Shintu Nantian suffuse an evil smile on his lips. At this moment, Yi Yun had already stood in front of the Great Empress relic. He looked at Shintu Nantian, then at the thousand-hand granny and the long-browed elder. The three of them were now standing in front of Yi Yun.
Shall we begin? Shintu Nantian said with a mocking smile. He wanted to see Yi Yun feeling troubled.
Yes, all of you should know the mystic crystal hand, right?
Yi Yun's retort made people speechless. The mystic crystal hand again. Could this Yi Yun do something fresh and new? The long-browed elder frowned.
He had not used a low-grade sealing technique like the mystic crystal hand for many years. Without mincing one's words, using this sealing technique would only degrade his status.
Little friend, what is the meaning of this? Are you trying to use me for your amusement?
Even if I want to use all of you for my amusement, I would not use it at the cost of my life. It's just that. I only know the mystic crystal hand at this moment, so I have to use it.
He only knew the mystic crystal hand?
When people saw Yi Yun use the mystic crystal hand all the time, people were already suspicious about it.
However, with Yi Yun saying it himself, they felt extremely speechless. A genius desolate heaven master could only use one technique, the mystic crystal hand? Ha ha ha. Shintu Nantian could not help but laugh.
This retard only knew how to use the mystic crystal hand, and he dared to evaluate this world's top-grade great empress relic.
Was he out of his mind? Just as Shintu Nantian was about to mock Yi Yun was the first to speak as he nonchalantly said, "Young Master Nantian, what are you laughing about? You are so happy. Speaking about this, it shouldn't be a problem for you to use the mystic crystal hand now, right? It must be extremely easy for young Master Nantian to use such a simple sealing technique."
As for the minor injuries young Master Nantian incurred half a month ago, I believe they have completely healed, right?
Yi Yun's easygoing words made Shintu Nanchan's face change slightly.
Yes, as the mystic crystal hand was too simple, he had nearly forgotten that he was injured.
What? Young Master Nantian has yet to recover? Yi Yun asked in a puzzled manner.
However, under the mask, his lips curled up gently. He could have used a master like the thousand-hand granny to help him, but he had forcefully pulled Shintu Nantian into the picture because he had long decided to screw with Shintu Nantian again. Yi Yun was always a petty person, so he would not let go of any chance to screw with Shintu Nantian.
Shintu Nanchan's expression sunk.
He was extremely proud and he would work extremely hard to maintain his modest and calm image in front of others.
He lived for his reputation.
Half a month ago, the news of his soul being severely damaged at the desolate Heaven Master tea session was kept under wraps by the Shintu family clan. If the news that the heir of the Shintu family clan could not recover despite using great quantities of treasured medicine just because of a performance to the point of needing at least a year to nurse his injuries was leaked, wouldn't it cause people to laugh till their guts burst? Unfortunately, Yi Yun was a person who specialized in smacking the faces of others. He would randomly expose Shintu Nanchan's scars, which made Shintu Nantian unable to do anything but rage.
Humph, it was just a minor injury. Just some nursing was enough. Shintu Nanchan's facial muscles twitched.
At this moment, it was not a matter of face, but the critical point was that the soul contract had been signed. The condition of them helping Yi Yun to prove the defect in the Great Empress relic was also written in the soul contract. If Shintu Nantian did not fulfill the conditions of the contract, he was not sure if Yi Yun could find a loophole causing the soul contract to end up being void, then he would lose greatly.
As such, Shintu Nantian had to force himself in doing so. Then that's great. Yi Yun gave a malicious smile. He gently touched the Great Empress relic with the tip of his finger.
My abilities are lacking, so although I may be able to form the mystic crystal hand seals, it is impossible for me to control the energy in the Great Empress relic from the seals I form.
Hence, I will need to use your strength. All of you just need to form the seals.
There is no need to control them, for I will take the lead. Actually, with the purple crystal, Yi Yun could extract the energy from the Great Empress relic himself, but it would be too shocking. It was more reasonable to use the thousand-hand grannies and the long-browed elder's strength.
Has the desolate beast arrived yet? Yi Yun looked at the Lin family. An elder stood up and took a desolate beast out of a spirit beast pocket. It was Fire-Eyed Wolf. It was about the size of a dog and had very weak attacking powers. Typically, it would only attack mortal blood realm warriors and eat their organs. At this moment, the fire-eyed wolf was being restricted by a seal. It gritted its teeth as it continuously struggled. It is this fire-eyed wolf. It was chosen according to your requirements. The elder threw the fire-eyed wolf towards Yi-Yun. All right, let's begin. Yi-Yun gave a satisfied nod. The three of you, please begin forming the seals. The mystic crystal hand has a total of 100 seals. You just need to do it from the beginning. I believe that with the standard of the three of you, the seals formed will be perfect. Yi-Yun was not afraid that these people would secretly make any trouble, for there were so many people looking. Naturally, they would not form the wrong seals. Humph. You have only about an hour of your life left. Enjoy it while you can. The thousand-hand granny sneered as her thin fingers moved. The first seal of the mystic crystal hand was nearly instantly completed. It was flawless. For her, a seal at this level was child's play. Yi-Yun opened his energy vision and observed the thousand-hand granny's seals. He knew that under the focus of so many people and the constraints of the soul contract, the thousand-hand granny would not dare to mess around. However, as he was naturally cautious, Yi-Yun still used his energy vision to inspect it to make sure that the seal did not have any traps like a spiritual attack embedded within it. Only then did Yi-Yun use his mental energies to pull the seal towards him. Next, Yi-Yun pulled the seal from the long-browed elder. With the two seals in hand, one on the left and one on the right, Yi-Yun looked at Shintu Nantian. Young Master Nantian, it's your turn. Yi-Yun said those words with deep meanings. Everyone's eyes also began turning toward Shintu Nantian. Shintu Nantian's expression looked ugly. He grunted before beginning to form the seals, hiding the difficulty he felt behind a calm face. However, this seal had affected his soul. Shintu Nantian immediately felt the pain in his soul. It was like a needle pricking him, and the pain was excruciating. Shintu Nantian gritted his teeth and endured the pain. Bit by bit, he completed the seal. The mystic crystal hand, which could not have been any simpler, now caused Shintu Nantian great pain. Kid, I'll let you be arrogant for a little while. After you fail, you will fall into my hands, and I will let you know what it means to lead a life worse than death. With this thought in his mind, Shintu Nantian managed to use it as support to complete the first seal with great difficulty. Finally, the seal was considered to be perfect, allowing Shintu Nantian to maintain his image. Yi-Yun pulled the seal towards him and scanned the seal with his energy vision. His mouth curled slightly. Young Master Nantian is indeed awesome. I believe the remaining 99 seals won't be a problem. Yi-Yun's words nearly made Shintu Nantian gasp. Shintu Nantian looked grimly at Yi-Yun, wishing to skin Yi-Yun alive. This kid. He clenched his fists tightly, with his heart burning with rage. You can only live for another hour. So what if I tolerate you for just a moment? Chapter 415, Extracting a Black Gas. The seals that Shintu Nantian, the thousand-hand granny, and the long-browed elder formed landed in Yi-Yun's hands. Yi-Yun opened his energy vision up, and in the energy vision, the great Empress relic remained bright. The little black snake was like a scar that made the perfect great Empress relic exude a dangerous and evil aura. Yi-Yun injected his mental energy into the purple crystal, and using the purple crystal's powers, he carefully isolated the evil aura. Before making the bet, Yi-Yun had attempted and proven that the purple crystal was effective on the great Empress relic. When the purple crystal's powers came into contact with the evil aura, Yi-Yun felt a jolt. It was like a frost sheet had moved along his meridians, spreading across his entire body, making him feel cold to the bone. Hiss. The little black snake constantly hissed as it was being surrounded by the purple crystal's powers. It struggled with all its might, trying to break out of the shackles enforced by the purple crystal. This stunned Yi-Yun. This black chi could already instinctively struggle. This meant that a spirit would soon evolve from it.
An intelligent spirit could evolve from some elixirs and relics after a long time when a large number of invaluable high-grade materials were used. At the instant a warrior swallowed it, it would fly out. Seeing that the Great Empress relic had almost formed a spirit after having been recently refined, it was quite formidable. If the Great Empress relic were to possess a spirit, especially with that little black snake having intellect, Yun would no longer be able to separate it from the relic using the purple crystal. This was because the purple crystal could only affect lifeless energies without an owner. Yun looked at the 3 mystic crystal hand seals in his hand and without hesitation, he sent the 3 seals onto the little black snake's body. Phew! When the seals pressed down on the snake's body, they caused its struggles to greatly weaken. If this relic was kept in the everlasting purple gold relic box for another 1 or 2 months, the black chi would probably be able to absorb heaven earth yuan chi, becoming even harder to control. When that happens, my purple crystal would be helpless against it. Previously, Shintu Nantian said that even with the Great Empress relic sealed in the everlasting purple gold relic box, it would slowly lose its medicinal properties, completely disappearing after a year. It looks like he was just fabricating it just to force the Lin family into deciding on the marriage alliance early. These thoughts flashed in Yun's head as he looked at Shintu Nantian with a smile. Young Master Nantian, it's time for the second seal. Shintu Nantian's face sunk as he snorted. He endured the pain in his soul as he began to condense the second mystic crystal hand seal. At this moment, many people were looking at Shintu Nantian, including the upper echelons of the Lin family and Lin Shintong. How could Shintu Nantian, who treasured his reputation greatly, allow himself to be made a fool of in front so many people? However, to act as a fatty, one had to endure the pain of the beating required to obtain a swollen face. Shintu Nantian was already beginning to regret it. Why did he have to hide his injuries and forcefully pretend to be indifferent about it? The second seal, the third seal, the fourth seal, all the way to the 20th seal. Shintu Nantian managed to complete them barely. However, upon reaching the 20th seal, Shintu Nantian began to feel the strain. The veins on his forehead bulged. As his mental energy were being overdrafted, his eyes turned red. He no longer looked anything like the carefree gentleman he usually acted like. And of all things, Lin Shintong was still looking at him. Shintu Nantian was insistent on not appearing weak in front of his future woman. What Shintu Nantian was persisting on was the thought of being able to kill Yun as he wished once Yun failed. However, there was no doubt that Shintu Nantian felt that every second in the 1-hour period was like a year. At this moment, Yun had already used the mystic crystal hand seals to completely restrain the little black snake. After all, to extract the black snake, it was not using the mystic crystal hand but the power of the purple crystal. If he wished, he could easily extract the little black snake any time. However, seeing Shintu Nantian in that state, Yun felt that if he did not drag this to the last moment, he would certainly let down the hard work Shintu Nantian had put in thus far. Young Master Nantian, you seem to be suffering? Is your soul hurting? Actually, you have only completed less than half of the mystic crystal hand seals. There is still another 60-odd more left. Actually, for things like pain, you will slowly get used to it as the pain goes on. When the 40th seal was condensed, Yun looked at Shintu Nantian as he said with concern. Shintu Nantian's face turned gloomy as he endured the throbbing pain in his soul. He gritted his teeth. You better mind yourself. You only have 30 minutes left to live. At this moment, there was an hourglass erected by the side of the venue. Grain by grain, the sand flowed down silently from top to bottom, just like the flow of life. After another 15 minutes, 80 mystic crystal hand seals had been formed. Shintu Nantian's expression was ferocious as his forehead was covered with sweat. His facial features were all twisted together. At this moment, he could no longer pretend anymore. Even a 7-year-old could see that Shintu Nantian was a spent force. The seals that Shintu Nantian formed now were no longer perfect. Although he had lost all of his face, Shintu Nantian continued to try his best to keep going on. After all, him helping Yun to search for the flaw in the Great Empress relic was written in the soul contract. Shintunantian was worried that something would go wrong with the soul contract.
Tianer, endure a little more.
Just a little while longer. At this moment, the thousand-hand granny's Yuan Qi transmission rang in Shintunantian's ears. Shintunantian nodded his head with effort as he took a soul-nurturing pill out of his interspatial ring and swallowed it. Following that, his face flushed with an unnatural red color. Originally, the injury to his soul was recovering, but after today's ordeal, he would probably take another few more months to recover.
He really hated Yun.
The amount of sand in the hourglass had depleted, there was only a tiny bit left. Nearby, Su Jia, Matriarch Lin and Lin Xintong were all worrying for Yun.
There was only about 5 minutes left. However, there was no obvious development with the Great Empress relic.
Lin Xintong clasped her hands together and she intercrossed her fingers.
Lin Xintong, who was always as nonchalant as the wind, could no longer remain calm. Master.
Lin Xintong transmitted her voice to Su Jia, but Su Jia only shook his head. I cannot see anything either. Maybe only the kid's mutated eyes can see such things. To the people present, Yun's mutated eyes were mysterious and incomprehensible. They were completely unaware of what the mutated eyes could see, nor did they know their effects. No one had guessed the existence of the purple crystal as it exceeded their knowledge of the world. In fact, there were already members of the older generation from the Shintu family clan who had used their heaven's eyes to completely scan Yun, however, they did not detect anything unusual. As a result, they could only accept the fact that Yun had mutated eyes.
240 seconds, 210 seconds, 180 seconds. Time passed as seconds changed to minutes, leaving only a small handful of sand left in the hourglass. Realizing that there was not much time left, Lin Xintong and company had their hearts in their mouths.
As for Shintunantian, although he was suffering from extreme pain, a grin of pleasure suffused on his mouth. For a small fry to cause him to feel so much hate, other than Yun Tian in front of him, the only other person to do that was Yun from a few months ago. Yun had already been maimed by him. As for this kid, he would brutally kill him using the most horrific methods. Another 90 seconds. Shintunantian's eyes were bloodshot as he looked at Yun before looking at Lin Xintong. As his soul was on the brink of tearing apart, Shintunantian was nearly going insane. He no longer concealed the way he looked at Lin Xintong as it became that of coveting desire.
In fact, compared to killing Yun, obtaining Lin Xintong was a greater motivation that allowed Shintunantian to persist on.
The pleasure obtained from this was better than killing Yun by 1,000 times or more. Lin Xintong's expression remained still as water as she kept silent. Seeing that there were less than 60 seconds left and the 100 mystic crystal hand seals completed, the Lin family held their breaths. One could have heard a pin drop. As for the Shintu family clan and company, they expressed pleased smiles. Especially Shintunantian and the thousand-hand granny, who did not hide their ferociousness and pleasure. Kid, I'll see how you shall die. The thousand-hand granny cackled like an old witch. For Shintunantian and Lin Xintong's marriage, she had endured it for 2 years. Now she had endured this little bastard peeing an S*** ting on her head. She had had enough of it. Once Shintunantian married Lin Xintong and cultivated the Great Empress Heart Sutra, he would eventually become a top great emperor. Then, the Shintu family clan would not only be able to ride out the crisis, they would also become the family clan that would rule over the Tianyuan world. 30 seconds. One could count the number of sand particles left in the hourglass with their naked eyes. The thousand-hand granny and Shintunantian watched the hourglass closely. Once the final moment passed, they would obtain everything they wanted. And at this moment, something out of the ordinary happened. The Great Empress relic under Yun's hands suddenly shook. The bright light emitted by the relic dimmed and a black gas flew out of the relic into Yun's hands. This black gas looked hideous and evil. Even with the numerous mystic crystal hand seals restricting it, it still struggled violently.
It was like an evil black worm that gave people the chills. Yi-Yun used the purple crystal to extract the black gas hidden in the Great Empress at the final moment.
People could only stare widely as the sudden appearance of the black gas was completely unexpected.
What's that?
Other than the elders from the Lin family, even the elders from the Song family and the Shintu family clan were shocked.
The black gas in Yi-Yun's hand made them feel uneasy. That was extracted from the Great Empress relic? Why did it seem to have a life of its own? If one ate the Great Empress relic, wouldn't that black gas be hiding in their body? People did not have time to figure out what the black gas was as Yi-Yun flicked his finger, shooting the black gas into the fire-eyed wolf beside him. This fire-eyed wolf was the desolate beast that Yi-Yun had selected for the experiment. Chapter 416, The Relic's Secret. Ao Wu.
With the black gas suddenly entering its body, the red-eyed wolf's body twitched, before it began convulsing violently.
The moment the black gas entered its body, the red-eyed wolf felt a biting chill that irritated it.
At this moment, the Thousand-Hand Granny and Shintu Nantian were completely stunned. Besides knowing that the Great Empress relic possessed a flaw, the ancient recipe they had obtained also described the flaw in detail. However, even the Thousand-Hand Granny did not know that there was a black gas hidden in the relic.
What was it? The kid has really found the defect?
Shintu Nantian coldly stared at the red-eyed wolf with his bloodshot eyes.
Impossible.
The Thousand-Hand Granny suddenly burst out hysterically as her old facial features contorted. Her thin, arched body began to tremble. The black gas he found is still of dubious origin. Victory has not been determined.
At this moment, everyone present was watching the red-eyed wolf.
This weak desolate beast, that had the strength equivalent to an ordinary purple blood realm warrior, suddenly turned frightened due to the combination of it being stared at by so many strong figures and the frost chi that had just entered its body. Its body began to shiver. About 10 seconds later, the red-eyed wolf's body suddenly quivered as it let out a scream. Its fur began to grow longer at a perceptible rate. The red-eyed wolf began to struggle violently as its wails sounded more painful than the previous wails. Its eyes were turning redder and redder, they went from pale red to deep blood red.
Ao Wu.
The red-eyed wolf's muscles began to crackle with explosive sounds as it crazily smashed its head on the ground and its fur grew longer and longer. It was restricted by seals and it had no way of breaking the seals with its strength.
However, now with its muscles expanding, the seals on its body were being destroyed one after another. Careful! Matriarch Lin immediately stood up.
The red-eyed wolf was not a powerful desolate beast, but it was not necessarily the case when the black gas entering it. The matriarch's mental energy locked onto the red-eyed wolf, and with a flick of her finger, a few energy beams shot out, enclosing the red-eyed wolf in a yuan chi cage. The red-eyed wolf seemed to go mad as it desperately slammed into the cage, causing its head to bleed. And people could see a chilling look of hate and evil in the red-eyed wolf's eyes.
What's the matter? The matriarch asked angrily.
She greatly cherished Lin Shintong, and now with the relic having a problem, she was furious.
What? What's strange about this?
The Thousand-Hand Granny immediately calmed down and snorted, the Great Empress relic's medicinal efficiency is extremely strong, so how can a red-eyed wolf withstand just a tiny bit of it?
It would not be odd if the red-eyed wolf dies? There's nothing you can tell from that.
Just as the Thousand-Hand Granny finished speaking, the mutated red-eyed wolf let out a blood-curdling howl. Its fur had grown to 2 feet long and its abdominal hair was already touching the ground. It began to convulse crazily and one could visibly see its muscles shrinking rapidly till they formed a lump.
Following that, its fur began to shed as its eye sockets sank.
Its eyes were no longer scarlet red, they had turned dim, as if it had gone blind.
It is aging,
an elder from the Lin family said in horror.
The red-eyed wolf was rapidly aging to the naked eye.
A red-eyed wolf could live for hundreds of years,
but it seemed like hundreds of years were compressed into a few seconds.
Soon, the red-eyed wolf had lost all of its vitality as it slumped to the ground. All of its fur had shed, leaving behind a dried-out piece of skin. However, this was not the end. It was like the wolf's skin had been buried for hundreds of years as it slowly rotted away.
And what was left of the red-eyed wolf was just a pile of nearly weathered bones.
This is... Seeing the red-eyed wolf's final outcome, the matriarch's pupils constricted as her face paled.
It was terrifyingly toxic. If Shintong had eaten it, what would have happened to her? Not only the matriarch, even Iyun was stunned.
Although he could tell that the black energy was a form of evil energy, he had not expected the red-eyed wolf to die like that when the black energy entered its body.
Impossible.
The thousand-hand granny's face paled as well. It was like the paper dolls that were burned for the dead. It was the type that had been torn apart too. Beside her, Shintu Nanshan's face was even more contorted. His temples were bulging and his brain was buzzing like 1,000 drums were being beaten beside his ears.
This was not what was described in the ancient recipe. If eating it would reduce one to a pile of bones, how could they have given it to Lin Shintong?
This was the territory of the Lin family. Did they not want to live any longer? According to what the ancient recipe said, once the 12 relics were eaten by a woman with naturally terminated yin meridians, she would be cured, giving her peerless talent, and her cultivation would rapidly advance.
However, the relic had a very strong side effect.
It would harm the woman's lifespan.
Although women with naturally terminated yin meridians would be healed, their bodies would be poisoned.
Their life essence would be eroded by the poison, and it would limit her lifespan to 2,000 years.
2,000 years was enough for the Shintu family clan.
Shintu Nantian would marry Lin Shintong and obtain her primordial yin, which would greatly benefit him, allowing his cultivation to rapidly improve. Furthermore, with Lin Shintong's help, Shintu Nantian would be able to cultivate the Great Empress Heart Sutra. 2,000 years was enough for Shintu Nantian to master the Great Empress Heart Sutra. In addition, with the Lin family's help, the Shintu family clan would be able to ride out the crisis, allowing the Shintu patriarch to completely heal. Finally, with Lin Shintong dying 2,000 years later, it would also end the possibility of her becoming a peerless Great Empress. Once a woman with naturally terminated yin meridians was healed and she became a Great Empress, she would become an existence that could lord over the entire Tianyuan world.
No one would be her match. Although Shintu Nantian would also become a great emperor, his strength would be too weak compared to Lin Shintong.
The Shintu family clan was afraid that Lin Shintong might have nefarious thoughts, causing the Lin family to swallow the Shintu family clan. This was something that the Shintu family clan did not wish to see. By letting Lin Shintong die 2,000 years later, Shintu Nantian would then become the number one person in the Tianyuan world. Hence, this move by the Shintu family clan achieved many things with one stroke. However, now with the appearance of Iyun, this fabulous move was completely destroyed. With this sudden turn of events, it was something the thousand-hand granny and Shintu Nantian had never expected. They simultaneously felt a biting cold. This chill came from Matriarch Lin. It was her killing intent. The thousand-hand granny was feeling the chills all over as she felt her neck was being squeezed tightly, preventing her from breathing.
Pang!
At this moment, there was an explosion. Not far from the thousand-hand granny, the Great Empress relic had exploded.
What?
People were all surprised.
The Great Empress relic's explosion was no trifling matter.
Seeing the strong shockwaves sweeping over, the long-browed elder, who was closest to the relic, and other elders from various family clans made a move to block the surging energy.
Boom! Boom! Boom!
The strong energetic impact caused a few of the elders, who were shielding the blast, to waver. A few of their expressions slightly changed as it was clearly taxing on them.
The Great Empress relic's explosion was extremely strong.
Furthermore, most of the explosive energy had surged up into the sky, leaving a tiny amount to surge to the sides.
If not, they would have spat blood out from the blast. After nearly 30 seconds, the shockwave dissipated. A few elders wiped the cold sweat from their foreheads as they felt a lingering fear. Why did the great Empress relic explode? People were confused, but the thousand-hand granny and Shintu Nantian knew the reason. The great Empress relic's flaw could not be removed. When the Shintu family clan obtained the great Empress relic's ancient recipe, this information was written in the ancient recipe by an ancient desolate heaven master who was a contemporary of the great Empress. This ancient desolate heaven master was a peerless genius. As he fell for the great Empress, he wished to join the great Empress naturally terminated meridians up. He had gone through tremendous efforts just to write out the ancient recipe that could join up the great Empress's terminated meridians. However, after he completed the recipe, the refined relic had an evil energy that could not be removed. The ancient desolate heaven master had tried various methods hoping to extract the evil energy. However, once the evil energy was extracted, the energy structure in the relic would collapse, and it would result in an explosion. Hence, the great Empress relic was an utter failure in itself. In the end, even the peerless ancient desolate heaven master had to give up. Although she knew this, the thousand-hand granny would never dare to admit it. She suddenly turned crazy. Due to her emotional upheaval, her body's yuan qi surged wantonly. The hairpin on her head dropped off as sparse gray hair dropped down like a patch of wild grass. She suddenly looked at Yun with eyes full of bloodlust. "Little bastard, you destroyed my Shintu family clan's great Empress relic and had prepared poison beforehand. You planted this on the Shintu family clan. I'll take your life." The thousand-hand granny suddenly imposed herself as she charged towards Yun. She stretched her skinny claws out, which transformed into a huge, black hand shadow that traveled towards Yun's neck. Yun's was shocked as he quickly retreated. Of course, he could not evade the thousand-hand granny's attack, but at this moment, how could Matriarch Lin, Sujia and company sit on the sidelines? The both of them and a few elders from the Lin family made their moves. Boom! With gorgeous rainbow beams flashing, the combined strengths of a few people devastated the thousand-hand granny's black claws easily. Following that, the rainbow beams did not diminish as they slammed heavily on the thousand-hand granny's chest. Pwah! The thousand-hand granny's thin body suddenly halted as she spat out a mouthful of black blood, before she flew backwards. Like a dead dog, she slammed heavily into a furnace used by the Lin family to suppress the mountain peak's yuan qi. Ding dang! The large furnace shook vigorously as it emitted a metallic roar. The back of the thousand-hand granny's head was covered in blood. She slid down slowly like a piece of dough. Little bastard, I will grind you to dust. The thousand-hand granny shouted fiercely, but the moment she opened her mouth, she spat out another mouthful of black blood. Chapter 417, Shintu Nantian, the boy who gives treasures. Granny. Shintu Nantian hurriedly helped up the thousand-hand granny. The sudden turn of events had completely exceeded his control. Seeing Matriarch Lin full of killing intent, Shintu Nantian could not help but feel a deep sense of fear. He really began to suspect that Matriarch Lin would annihilate the Shintu family clan, including him. The thousand-hand granny struggled to get up as a bitter smile appeared on her old face. 10,000 years ago, she had once sparred with Matriarch Lin. Back then, she was no match for Matriarch Lin, and today, the gap between them was even greater. Furthermore, with a few of the Lin family's elders attacking together, her meridians had already gotten injured. As for the other elders of the Shintu family clan, none of them dared to help the thousand-hand granny. At this moment, they were all dumbstruck. They never knew that the great Empress relic possessed such a major flaw. There was no more possibility for excuses with the matter reaching such a situation. If the red-eyed wolf's body had exploded to its death, they could even say that it was because it was too weak to withstand the powerful energy within the great Empress relic. However, for it to age and die, reducing it to dried bones, there was no way to explain it. Only evil energies could lead to such consequences. The Shintu family clan's elders were all worried about being implicated.
This was the home turf of the Lin family. It was not hard for Matriarch Lin to kill them all. The outcome would only be the complete breakdown of decorum between the Lin family and the Shintu family clan. It would be all-out war. Many of the Shintu family clan elders were trying to think of a way to separate themselves from the situation and clarify their stand, but at this moment, Shintu Nantian was the first to speak, Matriarch Lin. This junior did not know the great Empress relic had such a flaw.
I did not know this would have happened.
This has nothing to do with this junior. Upon hearing Shintu Nanshan's words, Lin Xintong frowned. This person was shameless to the core. Matriarch Lin walked toward Shintu Nantian as she held her dragon-headed cane. Shintu Nantian held his breath. Just as he was about to add on, Matriarch Lin suddenly shot out her arm and her wrinkled palm came striking down like lightning.
Pa!
With a clear slapping sound, Matriarch Lin had slapped Shintu Nantian right on the face.
This slap completely contorted Shintu Nanshan's face.
More than 10 teeth flew out as Shintu Nantian spun in the air at least 10 times like a top before slamming heavily to the ground.
Ah!
Shintu Nantian clutched his face as he trembled. His extremely handsome looks and great demeanor could no longer be seen as his face was now mangled with blood. Matriarch Lin's strike had repercussed the injury to his soul. As Shintu Nantian had gone through the ordeal with Yun, and was like a flickering candle, this major blow made Shintu Nantian feel like a heavy hammer was constantly striking his head. His brain was in a buzz as he felt excruciating pain.
Shintu Nantian looked up.
Blood was pouring out from his nostrils and ears.
The killing intent Matriarch Lin expressed nearly made him think he was going to die.
This woman, who had been in charge of the Lin family's internal affairs for 10,000 years, may look amiable, but once she was angered, she was extremely frightening.
Dawn!
Matriarch Lin's dragon-headed cane slammed heavily to the ground, producing a loud thud. The bricks made of heavenly formation mud underneath her feet turned to dust with her strike.
Don't think I'm a 3-year-old child.
You are a wolf with savage ambitions. Your intentions on Xintong were never pure. Old me was dim-sighted from old age, and was nearly fooled by you. If not for little friend Yun, I would have made a terrible mistake. After I die, I would have no face to meet the Lin family's ancestors. Matriarch Lin had taken on a high position for a long period of time, so with her rage, the pressure and killing intent she forced on Shintu Nantian was something his injured soul really could not handle.
Hand over the great Empress' ancient recipe. Say the secrets and location of that mystic realm. Under Matriarch Lin's oppressive aura, Shintu Nantian found it hard to breathe. At this moment, the thousand-hand granny gave a wry smile and said, "So what if we say it? It's just a soul contract. Death awaits if I don't say, but even if I say it, would you let us off?" The thousand-hand granny was on the brink of despair. She had nothing to say if she had lost to Matriarch Lin, but today, she had lost to a teenage kid. She could not accept it. The thousand-hand granny looked towards Yun with extreme hate. Everything that happened today was because of that little bastard. The great benefits that awaited the Shintu family clan had now led to a disaster. You may not want to say it, but someone else will say it. Not everyone is like you who wishes to die. As Matriarch Lin spoke, she looked towards Shintu Nantian. She had not killed Shintu Nantian with her strike because she wanted to know the location of the great Empress' mystic realm. Shintu Nanshan's mouth twitched as all sorts of thoughts flashed past his mind. He was in the worst of situations. Even if he revealed the whereabouts of the mystic realm, the chances of him getting out alive were slim. The only way was for him to sign another soul contract with Matriarch Lin, with the condition of him being able to leave the Lin family if he revealed the location of the mystic realm. Shintu Nantian had always led a smooth life. When had he ever encountered a scenario that was a threat to his life? This trip to the Lin family would have been the greatest opportunity in his life. A beauty, a top-grade cultivation technique, and it would all be his,
but in the end, it had become his nightmare. As Shintu Nantian was facing the threat of death, and enduring the physical and spiritual pain, Iyun looked up towards the sky. In the sky, there were heaven-earth yuan-chi gathered from all corners of the world, forming an enormous cloud. This cloud was more than 5 kilometers wide. Its perimeter was golden in color, while the center was filled with all sorts of colors. It was extremely beautiful. From the cloud, Iyun could feel the extremely pure yang qi. Iyun knew that this yuan qi cloud was formed after the Great Empress relic exploded. The Great Empress relic was made from a pure yang elemental primordial true spirit's life essence bone. With all sorts of invaluable materials, a pure yang divine item was refined. The ancient desolate heaven master who had written the Great Empress relic's recipe had theorized that injecting the unadulterated form of pure yang qi into the Great Empress body would complement yin with yang and make her meridians open up. However, refining a relic that contained such strong and unadulterated pure yang qi was extremely difficult. When pure yang reached an extreme, it would explode. As such, the ancient desolate heaven master had added an extreme yin and evil energy to balance the relic's energy structure. Now with the yin and evil energy having been extracted by Iyun, the pure yang energy exploded. However, it had not disappeared. It had gathered in the sky above, forming a huge rainbow-colored yuan qi cloud. In a few more hours, the yuan qi cloud would dissipate, but before that, this place would be a treasured ground that could be used to cultivate pure yang cultivation techniques. However, even the most powerful pure yang elemental warrior could only take in a limited amount of pure yang energy in a few hours. It was at best a drop in the bucket. However, Iyun was different. With the purple crystal, Iyun could absorb all the pure yang energy into the purple crystal and store them without anyone noticing. The yuan qi cloud was like a great treasure for Iyun. Upon thinking of this, Iyun felt extremely excited. The purple crystal could absorb energy without leaving any traces. In a few hours' time, people would only think that the pure yang yuan qi had dissipated by itself. No one would know that it had been swallowed by the purple crystal. With this thought, Iyun immediately proceeded in carrying out his plan. He controlled the purple crystal and began pulling the pure yang qi in the sky towards him. The pure yang qi was extremely clean and pure. Iyun had never come into contact with energy of such a grade. Furthermore, this energy was not as chaotic as he imagined. The ancient desolate heaven master who had invented the ancient recipe had used some method to transform the pure yang energy into a gentle state which made it easy to absorb. After all, in ancient times, that peerless great empress, who had healed her own naturally terminated meridians, was still young. Her cultivation level was naturally limited, so how could she endure chaotic pure yang energies? Phew. In Iyun's vision, he could see countless numbers of light dots surging towards him. Other than Iyun himself, no one could see the light dots. Iyun felt like his body had transformed into a sponge, those light dots being the sweetest spring water that he greedily absorbed them. There were more and more light dots as they became denser. In Iyun's energy vision, his body had become like a sun, exuding colorful beams. Iyun suddenly felt extremely refreshed. The warm energy cleansed Iyun's body from head to toe. The energy entered deep into his bone marrow, meridians, and organs. Iyun felt an indescribable comfort. This feeling made Iyun feel like his entire body had turned sublime. He could clearly feel that every cell in his body was breathing the pure yang energy as they grew and evolved while bathing in the pure yang energy. His cells became more and more energetic as if they had a life of its own. The ordering of the cells became even more perfect, following certain laws of nature. The change to his cells made Iyun feel that his body had gone through a subtle change. Could it be? Iyun suddenly realized the possibility that his pure yang body had undergone another evolution. When Iyun first obtained the pure yang spirit, his body became a pure yang body of the earliest grade. Now, it had evolved to a higher level. Although it was not a perfect pure yang body, he was getting closer to it. Upon thinking of this, Yi Yun's mood turned exceedingly serene. Shintu Nantian was practically a boy who gave out treasures. He sure was too much to cheat Shintu Nantian so terribly when he had come to give him treasures. Yi Yun stroked his chin as a smile suffused on his lips. Clearly, he did not feel one bit guilty about this. Shintu Nantian's face was currently covered in blood. Of course, he did not know what Yi Yun was thinking. Neither did he know that Yi Yun was currently wolfing down on the great Empress Relic's energy that his Shintu family clan had paid a terrible price to refine. Furthermore, the evil energy had been discarded by Yi Yun. What he was absorbing was the essence of the essence. There was no side effects at all. If he knew this, Shintu Nantian would probably have died from exploded lungs. Author's note: some readers might ask, why can the thousand-hand granny attack Yi Yun with the soul contract's bondage? Is it a bug? Actually, I had thought about this question while I was writing. The soul contract was set to punish after the contract was violated. It would not give any advance protection, as that would be too intelligent. Furthermore, the thousand-hand granny's attack on Yi Yun was not a violation of the contract. The contents of the contract was that if Yi Yun found the flaw in the relic, the thousand-hand granny would have to tell the secrets of the great Empress Mystic Realm. Chapter 418: The Final Outcome of the Medicine Trial. As Yi Yun was single-mindedly absorbing the energy from the great Empress's relic's explosion, Shintu Nantian was approaching the gates of hell. In this world, few people were not afraid of death, and Shintu Nantian was apparently not one of them. Matriarch Lin. Beads of sweat began oozing out of Shintu Nantian's forehead. They were forced out by Matriarch Lin's killing intent. I can tell you all the secrets of the great Empress Mystic Realm, including the experience gained from sacrificing so many Shintu family clan experts. But, I plead that you let the people from my Shintu family clan leave. Shintu Nantian intended to sign another soul contract with Matriarch Lin. Let you go? Matriarch Lin sneered, you schemed to harm Shintong with evil intentions, and now, you want old me to let you off? If old me did not guess wrongly, if Shintong had swallowed that great Empress relic, the evil energy would greatly shorten her lifespan. By the time my Lin family knew the truth, your family would have gained all sorts of benefits, and it would have been too late. And all these benefits would all be yours, Shintu Nantian, alone. How can I let you go? You are using the great Empress Mystic Realm as a chip, so how would I know if the great Empress Mystic Realm was really left behind by the ancient great Empress? Maybe, it was just a mystic realm left behind by an ancient desolate heaven master. There would be no way of finding a method to join Shintong's terminated meridians up. Matriarch Lin expounded pressure. After all, she was a grandmaster in the desolate heaven technique. Although she had been tricked by the great Empress relic, she could roughly guess the great Empress relic's trap. An elixir like the great Empress relic made of extremely pure yang energy was definitely useful for Lin Shintong's naturalene meridians. However, the dangerous potential was not easily detected. However, as the red-eyed wolf was too weak, and with it swallowing the evil energy and not the beneficial portion of the relic, as such it was suppressed by the evil energy, leading it to rapidly age. Shintu Nantian knew that Matriarch Lin would definitely not let him off today. He was distraught, for in this situation, the news about the great Empress Mystic Realm was the only card he had that was keeping him alive. Matriarch Lin. This junior can swear on my life that the great Empress Mystic Realm is truly extraordinary. It is definitely closely related to the great Empress. This point can be written in the soul contract. It is just that my Shintu family clan does not have the ability to fully open and explore the great Empress Mystic Realm. Amongst all of the Shintu family members present, only Thousand Hand Granny and I know everything about the great Empress Mystic Realm. Shintu Nantian began to speak factually. What he said immediately shocked everyone present. The great Empress Mystic Realm had not been fully explored by the Shintu family clan. Even the Shintu family clan did not have the ability to fully open the great Empress Mystic Realm, so what was inside the areas that were not fully opened? There was no doubt that the more inaccessible the place was, the more extraordinary it was. The parts explored had produced the ancient desolate Heaven Master heritage that made many people envious. There was also the extraordinary Great Empress ancient recipe that had been proven to be defective. The places that had not been opened in the mystic realm definitely had amazing opportunities. People were tempted. Other than the upper echelons of the Lin family, even the upper echelons of the family clans that had allied with the Shinto family clan were envious. The Shinto family clan may not be able to enter those areas, but they might be able to do so? Although it was unlikely, it was not entirely impossible. That ancient great empress was not someone that someone like the Shinto patriarch could compare with. There was even the possibility that she had long surpassed the usual definitions of the great emperor realm, and she had reached a higher realm that they did not understand nor have a name to. Matriarch Lin narrowed her eyes. If there was an area in the mystic realm that had not been opened up, that would be an opportunity for the Lin family. Furthermore, what Matriarch Lin was most concerned with was finding a method to join up Lin Shintong's terminated meridians within those areas. The situation had progressed into a dilemma. Matriarch Lin may be having a powerful stance now, but she too did not know how to handle it. On one hand, she did not wish to let Shinto Nantian off, and on the other hand, she wanted to obtain the Great Empress mystic realm. Since we have made enemies with the Shinto family clan, it will only lead to endless adverse consequences if Shinto Nantian was let off. Matriarch Lin knew that despite Shinto Nantian's poor character, he was extremely talented. Even now, Shinto Nantian's talent far exceeded anyone in the Lin family's younger generation. As for Lin Shintong, she may possess great talent, but she had the critical problem of her naturally interminated meridians. Matriarch Lin sighed and suddenly, she turned her head towards Yun. Little friend Yun, how do you think this matter should be dealt with? Matriarch Lin's sudden words made everyone present surprised. Even Yun, who was focused on absorbing the pure yang energy, was stunned. It was shocking to consult a junior on such a huge matter. There was no doubt that with Yun's performance over the past few days, and having revealed the Shinto family clan's evil scheme, Matriarch Lin no longer looked at Yun in an ordinary manner. She had completely distinguished Yun from the other juniors, and she had treated him as one of the members that could discuss in their family matters. This, Yun smiled bitterly. He scratched his head and shirked. This is a matter that the upper echelons of the Lin family needs to decide. It might not be suitable for me to give my opinion. Matriarch Lin shook her head. This is not only a matter for the Lin family, it is also a matter for you. This matter is closely related to you. There is no way of reconciling your relationship with the Shinto family clan, especially Shinto Nantian. If I were to let him off today, aren't you afraid he will seek revenge in the future? Matriarch Lin had asked because she wanted to respect Yun's wishes. By letting Shinto Nantian off, the harm to the Lin family could be far off into the future, but the harm to Yun would be immediate. Once Yun lost the protection of the Lin family, he would suffer the vengeful attacks of the Shinto family clan. About this, Yun stroked his chin. He was already far from reconciliation with Shinto Nantian a long time ago. Just as the saying goes, one isn't afraid of being bitten by lice once there were too many, so one matter more or less did not really mean much. Actually, since Matriarch Lin has asked me, you already have the answer in your heart. This junior feels that healing Miss Lin of her naturally terminated meridians is more important. Ian knew that Matriarch Lin was not willing to miss the opportunity to heal Lin Shintong, despite the threat of Shinto Nantian's future revenge if he was let off. Matriarch Lin was just taking into account Ian's feelings. Seeing Yun so considerate for Lin Shintong, Matriarch Lin was touched. Little friend Yun, as long as old me still has a breath left in me, and as long as Shintong still holds a spot in the Lin family will definitely not let you down. Once Matriarch Lin finished speaking, Yun said, Matriarch Lin, this junior did not say that young Master Nantian should be let off. Oh? Matriarch Lin's eyebrows raised as she was slightly surprised. It's this. The soul contract's curse will take a few days, right? Yun knew that the ghost head in the soul contract was actually a curse.
Once the contract was signed, and until the contract was nullified, the ghost head would slowly eat into the signee's soul, till they died a painful death. Only by fulfilling the contract would the ghost head disappear. This process varied depending on the person.
Those with high cultivation levels could last for 70 to 80 days, while those with low cultivation levels could only last slightly more than 10 days.
Matriarch Lin gently nodded. Right.
Young Master Nanshan's strength is good, and he can definitely endure it for a long time. Yun smiled gently as he praised Shintu Nantian. However, this praise made Shintu Nanshan's heart freeze. As he looked at Yun's cold mask and the two red bloodlines where the eyes should be, a sense of foreboding was felt by Shintu Nantian. What was this kid going to do?
It's this.
This junior has heard that the Shintu family clan has a form of torture, called the dismembering the heart punishment. In a period of 36 days, a red-hot blade would be slashed on the criminal 36,000 times. After each day's slashing, a heart-dismembering worm's egg would be placed in the wounds. The eggs would then slowly hatch and eat at the flesh and blood. Finally, when the 36,000 slashes were completed, the heart-dismembering worms would follow the blood vessels and meridians all the way to the heart. There, tens of thousands of worms would bite at the heart, eventually leading to one's death. The dismembering the heart punishment was what Shintu Nantian had told Yun a few months ago. Back then, Shintu Nantian wanted to use dismembering the heart as a way to deal with Yun, to force the shepherd boy to save him. However, now, it had switched to Yun talking about the dismembering the heart. Shintu Nanshan's face immediately turned as white as paper. As a member of the Shintu family clan, he had witnessed with his own eyes how the dismembering the heart punishment was carried out by the Shintu family clan. The slashes were nothing much, but once the heart-dismembering worm's eggs were placed in one's body, the feeling of the larvae crawling inside one's body was a pain that was worse than death. Back then, as a spectator, Shintu Nantian felt some pleasure seeing people suffer this punishment. However, if it was him suffering it, he could not imagine it. Torture? Matriarch Lin asked. She was surprised that Yun was so vicious in his methods, even though he was so young. To get truths out of torture, that would be the best. If it is useless, we can release news that the sentencing will happen in 10 days later to allow the Shintu family clan to come and redeem him. Of course, the price of redeeming him is the information of the great Empress Mystic Realm. The Shintu family clan would probably not give up on Shintu Nantian, right? After all, the great Empress Mystic Realm cannot be opened by the Shintu family clan. So things they cannot obtain can't be more important than the future successor of the Shintu family clan. Shintu Nantian was extremely important for the Shintu family clan. His importance far exceeded the importance of Lin Shintong in the Lin family. Matriarch Lin would not give up on Lin Shintong. Then, the Shintu family clan's Shintu patriarch would also not give up on Shintu Nantian. He was the most favorite and beloved junior. This, Matriarch Lin felt suspicious. Then, wouldn't Shintu Nantian be let off? What's the difference? The difference is, we can use these 10 days to take care of young Master Nantian well. After all, young Master Nanshan's injuries are quite severe. If we can treat his wounds such as feeding him some poisonous items that might affect his future cultivation, then. When Yun said this, Matriarch Lin's eyes twitched. This little rascal sure wasn't any goody two-shoes. Seeing Matriarch Lin look at him with disbelieving eyes, Yun scratched his head sheepishly. This junior is just letting him have a taste of his own medicine. Yun had said that with his Yuan Qi. Chapter 419, Thank you. Put everyone from the Shintu family clan into custody. Matriarch Lin ordered. Not only Shintu Nantian, none of the other Shintu family clan elders were allowed to leave either. The people from the Shintu family clan looked at each other, unsure of what fate lied ahead of them. Shintu Nantian was horrified at this moment. He had only heard the dismembering the heart punishment Yun mentioned. As for the rest of Yun's words, they were all said to the matriarch in a Yuan Qi transmission.
He did not know what the matriarch would do to him. "Matriarch, can you please restrain their cultivation level?" Yi-Yun said out loud.
Matriarch Lin nodded as she stood in front of Shintu Nantian and the thousand-hand granny. Both of their faces were covered in blood, their situation was terrible. Hearing that his cultivation level would be restrained, Shintu Nantian looked hatefully at Yi-Yun as his mouth curled. At this moment, he wished that he could tear off Yi-Yun's flesh bit by bit. The eyes of Matriarch Lin flashed a cold beam as she tapped Shintu Nantian's and the thousand-hand granny's bodies as quick as lightning.
Pang!
With a loud explosion, Shintu Nantian's body trembled as he was sent rolling on the ground a few times. Matriarch Lin had restrained Shintu Nantian by sealing his meridians. Shintu Nantian was now suffering from his injured soul as well as the suppressed cultivation level. He was no different from an ordinary person now. Actually, Matriarch Lin greatly desired to smash Shintu Nantian's dantian, directly crippling him. However, as the Lin family was hoping to use Shintu Nantian to exchange for the method to enter the Great Empress Mystic Realm, the matriarch could not torture Shintu Nantian too terribly. At least, it should not be visible when negotiations with the Shintu family clan was held. If the Shintu family clan knew that Shintu Nantian had already become a cripple, they would give him up immediately and go to war with the Lin family. "Little friend Yun, I will give you full autonomy in handling this matter. I believe you have your discretion." Matriarch Lin was very assured when it came to Yi-Yun. This astonished many from the upper echelons of the Shintu family clan. All of them were usually a famous name in the Tian Yuan world. They could easily cause a commotion upon visiting a small family clan, with the family clan's head personally welcoming them. Now, however, their fate was to be decided by a junior. It was such a great ridicule. 2 administrators of the Lin family were assigned to listen to Yi-Yun's orders. Yi-Yun did not stand on ceremony and simply said, "For the Shintu family clan guests, find a clean and decent guest house for them to stay in." As for these 2, Yi-Yun looked toward Shintu Nantian and the thousand-hand granny, "Find a dungeon and simply lock them up." Dungeon? The 2 Lin family administrators were shocked upon hearing this. This kid sure did things seriously. Both Shintu Nantian and the thousand-hand granny were members of the upper echelon of the Shintu family clan, but this kid was actually planning on imprisoning them in a dungeon. "Little bastard, you better not fall into my hands. I will let you live a living death." The thousand-hand granny cursed. Yi-Yun waved to the administrator, "Hey brother, stuff her mouth." The 2 Lin family administrators were speechless and turned to look at Matriarch Lin. Matriarch Lin nonchalantly said, "Just follow the instructions." After all, the Lin family had already lost all decorum with the Shintu family clan, so there was not much left to be considered. The 2 family clans were originally enemies. Now, with the Lin family knowing that the Shintu family clan had been scheming against the Lin family, how could they not sound out after being stabbed by a knife? In the warrior world, one could only survive well by being more ruthless. Only then would one not be humiliated. If everyone were to just endure and put up an attitude of not minding incursions from others just because they were a super family clan, then this sort of large family clan would eventually be eaten up by others. It was not enough to just verbally condemn. Seeing the bloodied Shintu Nantian and the thousand-hand granny being carried away like dead dogs, many of the elders from the large family clans, who had good relations with the Shintu family clan, broke out in cold sweat. Amongst them, the Song family's long-browed elder, who had strongly supported the Shintu family clan, was feeling most nervous. He had said, in a matter-of-fact manner, that the Great Empress relic did not have any problems. To prove that, he had used the mystic crystal hand to aid Yi-Yun, along with Shintu Nantian and the thousand-hand granny. However, now, amongst the 3 who aided Yi-Yun, he was the only one left standing there. Shintu Nantian and the thousand-hand granny had already been dragged off to the dungeons. The long-browed elder wiped the sweat off his forehead and said, "I was dim-sighted from old age. Although I did participate in the refinement of the Great Empress relic, I only saw a tiny portion of the recipe. I really did not see problems with the relic. The Song family, which the long-browed elder belonged to, was much weaker compared to the Lin family. Furthermore, with him at fault, the Lin family could easily count the Song family as accomplices.
That would be no simple joke.
Yi Yun had guessed that the long-browed elder really did not know much. This included a large majority of the Shintu family clan's elders, as they too did not know anything about this matter. After all, it was better when less people knew something to ensure the secrecy of the matter. For Elder Song to explain it away with the reason of being dim-sighted from old age, this junior really has nothing to say against that. However, Elder Song, you should know that just now, when this junior was risking his life to stand out and question the Shintu family clan, I was looked down upon and suspected by others. Elder Song, you stood up for the Shintu family clan and was so sure of yourself, pushing me into an extremely unfavorable situation. If I did not gain the opportunity to prove myself, or failed to perform well due to experiencing too much pressure, resulting in me failing to extract the evil energy, then me dying would not have been a big deal, but the Shintu family clan scheme would have succeeded. Many years later, when Miss Lin then died as a result, it is not unlikely that the Lin family would have been swallowed by the Shintu family clan.
That would then have been irreversible.
Yi Yun was not a magnanimous person.
Yi Yun still held the long-browed elder accountable for his actions, even if he was not aware of the truth.
Although Yi Yun would not put the long-browed elder through a terrible situation, rattling him up was not a bad idea either.
The long-browed elder bitterly cried in his heart. This little rascal was the kind of person who did not let one off easily. He could remain so calm even in front of all the mighty figures of the Shintu family clan, so how could he fail to perform well due to experiencing too much pressure? This was clearly Yi Yun trying to con him.
Of course, he could not say this out loud.
He was smart and knew the underlying meaning in Yi Yun's words.
He said, "I was foolish and nearly made a grave mistake.
Little friend Yun is right. Just my apology is not sincere enough.
I will give a satisfactory answer to the Lin family. Also, I will make reparations to little friend Yun."
The long-browed elder did not mind compensating Yi Yun using material goods because this youth was just too terrifying.
He was still so young, yet his desolate heaven technique talent had reached such an extraordinary level. Furthermore, he had just now single-handedly destroyed the Shintu family clan's machinations. So many mighty figures had fallen into his hands. Shintu Nantian and the Thousand-Hand Granny even nearly died from his schemes. If he was this brilliant at such a young age, he would become even more so when he grew up. The Song family may have allied with the Shintu family clan, but that was just due to their mutual interests. Although they usually followed the Shintu family clan's lead, it would be a joke if they were to help the Shintu family clan bear the brunt force of an attack. Longbrowed believed that Yi Yun would accomplish much in the future, so he was happy to get the chance to befriend Yi Yun.
Hearing the long-browed elder's words, Yi Yun was satisfied. He would be a fool if he did not collect benefits. It was also absolutely legitimate for him to obtain those benefits.
Little friend Yun, this matter was settled all thanks to you. The Lin family has stood in the Tian Yuan world for so many years.
Our family's rules are also very clear with its rewards and punishments. You must be tired after extracting the evil energy. Go take a rest. Come see me in the Jade Bamboo Peak early tomorrow morning. Matriarch Lin gave Yi Yun an affable smile.
She suddenly thought of something and spoke to Lin Shinton, who was beside her. "Shinton, you should come too."
"Yes."
Lin Shinton nodded slightly. Before she left, she glanced deeply at Yi Yun. A strange light flickered in her eyes. Although she had said that she believed in Yi Yun, Lin Shinton still felt deeply touched when Yi Yun actually managed to complete what seemed like an impossible task.
She had seen Yi Yun remain extremely calm, despite the dwindling amount of sand left in the hourglass.
When he extracted the evil energy, without feeling any need to rush, and sent it into the desolate beast's body, proving the toxicity of the evil energy, a strange and wondrous feeling surged in Lin Shinton's heart. This was mainly because she had seen this youth walk out from the vast wilderness. She had witnessed his incredible growth process, so this wondrous feeling was even stronger.
Thank you.
Lin Shinton's lips gently moved as the soft and sweet words entered Yi Yun's ears. Yi Yun felt his ears itch with the young girl's whispering words. He slightly smiled and said, "Thank you too, for believing in me by betting your dignity and innocence." Lin Shinton said, "My dignity and innocence cannot compare to you betting your life."
Well, of course it cannot be compared for me. However, for Miss Lin, it is completely different.
Yi Yun knew that a speckless girl like Lin Shinton would never have given up her own dignity just to carry on living. Lin Shinton gave him a gentle smile and did not speak any further.
She accompanied the matriarch and left silently. Her beautiful figure disappeared into the green sea of bamboo. Chapter 420, How the Tides Change.
After Matriarch Lin left with Lin Shinton, Yi Yun remained on the mountain peak as he absorbed the pure yang qi in the rainbow-colored yuan qi cloud.
Some of the Lin family elders also cultivated pure yang laws.
They too coveted the yuan qi cloud, however, they could only cultivate under this cloud for about 3 hours, which would not benefit them much.
These people simply gave up. Little friend Yun, you practice a pure yang cultivation technique too?
A Lin family elder noticed that Yi Yun seemed to be cultivating under the yuan qi cloud, so he came over and asked. After the medicine trial session, Yi Yun's status in the Lin family had sharply risen.
Hence, the elders in the Lin family were much more polite with Yi Yun.
Yes. Yi Yun nodded and the Lin family elder smiled. We Desolate Heaven Masters actually do not really need to hone our combat skills.
Pure yang laws are too profound.
Practicing the Desolate Heaven technique already takes up a large portion of our time. If a law is to be cultivated, choosing something simpler like the 5 elemental laws would do.
For example, the fire elemental laws are pretty good. In terms of fighting, the fire elemental laws are similar to the pure yang laws. Although it is weaker in strength, the fire elemental laws are much easier to learn. With this comparison, the fire elemental laws are much better.
As he had a good impression of Yi Yun, this Lin family elder began to give him some pointers. In his opinion, youths inevitably were overambitious. They would be too naive regarding martial paths, and they would recklessly choose profound and difficult to learn laws like yin-yang or spacetime, eventually causing them to go through many detours.
Thank you for the senior's advice, Yi Yun said modestly, before carrying on absorbing the pure yang qi. Seeing Yi Yun's actions, the Lin family elder turned speechless.
Clearly, the youth in front of him was not listening. By choosing pure yang laws, this kid probably wanted to accomplish a lot in the martial path too. He was too greedy. For example, even Shintu Nantian and Lin Shinton, who were proud children of heaven, would not attempt to master both aspects to an extreme. Although they had pretty good accomplishments in the Desolate Heaven technique, the two of them were more focused on their martial path. They would give up learning most of the complicated sealing technique in the Desolate Heaven technique while cultivating profound martial laws. The old man shook his head and left. And at this moment, Yi Yun had already absorbed about a third of the rainbow yuan qi cloud's pure yang qi. This absorption rate was about the same speed as the dissipation rate of the yuan qi cloud itself. Yi Yun did this just to be careful. He specifically used the purple crystal to absorb the pure yang qi that was about to disperse away. By doing so, even if a great emperor were to stare at the yuan qi cloud, he would not be able to know that the purple crystal had magically absorbed it. At this moment, Yi Yun's body was already full of energy. No matter how gentle the pure yang qi in the great empress relic was, Yi Yun's body had its limits. The remaining pure yang qi was stored inside the purple crystal. As the pure yang qi was highly compressed, it had now liquefied into golden droplets. It looked like melted gold and it was extremely pure. Seeing the golden droplets, Yi Yun was extremely delighted. With them, his cultivation level could rapidly increase in a short period of time. Yi Yun had already been stuck at the early stages of the Yuan Foundation realm for quite some time. Other than the golden droplets, the purple crystal contained two other energies. The first was the pure yang spirit, which was what Yi Yun had obtained in Fallen Stargate.
The second was the extremely cold yin energy.
Back when Yi Yun was thrown into a cell by Shintu Nantian force-fed Yi Yun a 7 noxious divine yin pill. The 7 noxious divine yin pill contained an extremely cold yin energy.
If not for the purple crystal absorbing and compressing its energy, Yi Yun's cultivation would have been destroyed. Thinking about this, a playful smile suffused on Yi Yun's lips. It was time to visit young Master Nantian.
How Shintu Nantian treated him back then, it was time to return it to him in the same way. After absorbing all the pure yang qi, Yi Yun was not in a rush to leave. He glanced at the pile of bones left behind by the red-eyed wolf and put them away. With the purple crystal's energy vision, Yi Yun knew that the black evil energy was still hidden amongst the bones. After carefully examining the black gas, Yi Yun realized that not only did it not have any signs of deterioration after swallowing the red-eyed wolf's vitality and flesh, it had actually grown stronger. Of course, as the red-eyed wolf was too weak, the evil energy did not become that much stronger.
However, this discovery alarmed Yi Yun. What was this evil energy? It seemed like it could grow. It sounded too fantastic and it was extremely creepy. Could it be that this evil energy could grow indefinitely?
Upon thinking of this, Yi Yun shook his head and rejected the idea. It was unlikely, as the Shintu family clan probably used primordial true spirit grade treasures as materials to refine the Great Empress relic. They would not have been able to find materials more precious than that. Under these circumstances, the evil energy that resulted from the Great Empress relic would not have been able to grow indefinitely.
But if it was used against Shintu Nantian, it would be enough.
The corners of Yi Yun's lips suffused a smile as he headed towards the dungeon. The Lin family's dungeon was itself a strong fortress. The dungeon was constructed from a special metal. The engraved runic arrays made it indestructible. People who were thrown into the dungeon would have their cultivation level restricted. Even a figure like the 10,000 Imperial King would not be able to do anything once he was thrown into the dungeon. The Lin family's dungeon had previously imprisoned a demonic person who had stirred up a lot of trouble in the Tianyuan world. He was imprisoned until his death. The dungeon was located in the Death Hell Peak, one of the Lin family's 18 main peaks. From the peak of the mountain, there was a passageway that was thousands of meters long. The dungeon was located at the other end of the passageway, deep inside the mountain.
Open the door. Yi Yun easily entered the dungeon with the warrant Matriarch Lin gave him.
Shintu Nantian and the Thousand-Hand Granny were imprisoned inside a large cell.
Shintu Nantian's hands and legs were bound with chains.
This scene was too familiar with Yi Yun. How the tide changes, Yi Yun had been chained in a cell a few months ago by Shintu Nantian. Now, the situation had reversed. The world was indeed unpredictable. Beside Shintu Nantian, the Thousand-Hand Granny was suspended in the air with chains. Her hair was disheveled and she looked like a ferocious ghost. When she saw Yi Yun appear, she immediately struggled towards Yi Yun. Crash! The chains tightened, and no matter how much the Thousand-Hand Granny struggled, she was unable to grab Yi Yun. Her gaze looked like she wanted to tear Yi Yun's flesh off with her mouth, bit by bit. Little bastard! Remember this day, for I will make sure you lead a living death. The Thousand-Hand Granny hated Yi Yun so much. Everything that had happened today was all thanks to Yi Yun. Seeing that hateful and wrinkled old face, Yi Yun shook his head. It seems that you have not accepted the reality of having your powers sealed.
Now, you can no longer threaten me.
As Yi Yun spoke, he suddenly lifted his hand and mercilessly slapped down.
Pa!
With a clear slapping sound, the Thousand-Hand Granny heavily slammed into the wall. Her face was covered with dry black blood that seemed to be smeared with mud. However, this was not a result of Yi Yun's blow. It was a consequence of the combined attack of Matriarch Lin's and a few Lin family elders' attack.
Little bastard?
Tisk! Yi-Yun took a towel out of his interspatial ring and wiped the black blood stains off his hand before throwing the towel on the ground.
How many times have you cursed me? Probably 10 or 20 times?
My temperament sure is good to endure it up to now, you old witch. As Yi-Yun said, he sent another merciless punch at the thousand-hand granny's right eye. Yi-Yun felt pleased with the feeling of fist meeting flesh. The thousand-hand granny gritted her teeth while staring at Yi-Yun. She was greatly maddened, but she could not do anything to Yi-Yun. She had never been in such a cowardly state in her entire life, to be brutally beaten up by an ant-like person.
Yun.
Shintunantian stared at Yi-Yun. Do not forget that in a few days, I will walk out of here.
The elders in my family will trade the information about the great Empress Mystic Realm in exchange for me. I will remember how you treat me today.
One must be sparing in his ways. I advise you to give yourself a lifeline. Shintunantian was smart. He knew that if he were to revile Yi-Yun, he would only be subjected to physical pain. As a wise man does not fight when the odds are against him, he used the fact that he would eventually leave the Lin family as a threat to warn Yi-Yun not to mess around. Yi-Yun stroked his chin and nodded. That's reasonable. However, according to what you say, I should cherish whatever time I have now. I should abuse you to get back my capital. As Yi-Yun spoke, he sent a big slap at Shintunantian.
Pa!
Yi-Yun's palm fully came into contact with Shintunantian's face, and accompanying the slapping sound, Shintunantian snorted before being sent flying by Yi-Yun. He was riddled with injuries, so he was already on his last breath. With his cultivation level suppressed, Yi-Yun's slap made Shintunantian feel like 1,000 drums were being banged beside his ear. He began retching while sprawled on the ground. The damage to his soul was too life-threatening. Just using a bit of his mental energy or receiving any external physical attacks would cause a repercussion to his injuries, giving him a terrible headache. You, Shintunantian's eyes turned red as he deadly stared at Yi-Yun. I have no grudge with you. Why are you treating me this way?
Shintunantian no longer dared to say any unyielding words.
The thousand-hand granny had been slapped when she reviled Yi-Yun.
His outcome was the same when he threatened Yi-Yun.
In that case, he could only take a soft stance.
No grudge? A mocking smile appeared on Yi-Yun's lips. Yi-Yun's words made Shintunantian think. There was a grudge?
Upon careful thought, why was this kid wearing a mask to hide his looks? Besides, it sounded like his voice was not his original voice. He was clearly trying to hide his identity.
An uneasy sense of foreboding rose in Shintunantian's mind.
He stared at Yi-Yun's eyes. Yi-Yun's mask could not cover his eyes, but it was very difficult to recognize a person just from his eyes.
Shintunantian only felt that Yi-Yun's eyes looked familiar.
As to where he had seen them before, he was unable to remember.